Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Those Nerds You Know. Welcome to episode 8. Today we're going to talk about some freaking awesome stuff.
Yeah.
Namely, Voltron.
Who are we?
Ha. Who are you?
I am David McQueen.
My name is Ethan LeBlanc.
And we're Those Nerds You Know.
That's right. We didn't mess that up, though.
But we are going to talk about Voltron today. Woo woo!
Yep,
Specifically,
Voltron.
the
Voltron,
Netflix show.
Legendary Defender.
Yeah.
The legendary.
Not
Voltron. Is it the Legendary Defender or is it just Voltron Legendary Defender?
Voltron.
I think it's Voltron Legendary Defender, yeah?
Yep.
The one that's on Netflix has 2 seasons and is pure gold.
Oh, it's
It's
great.
great.
It's super good.
So good. Ha. Ha.
So it's created by DreamWorks Studio,
Yeah.
and it's animated by Studio Mir, which is the company that animated Avatar: The Last Airbender, Korra, Legend of Korra.
And it's got some...
They also animated, I didn't know this, but they animated the 4th season of Boondocks.
Yeah, that's true.
And I was like,
saw
what
that when
the
I was
heck?
looking at it too, yeah.
I love that show.
Super cool, yeah.
Yeah, no, they're pretty cool. They're a pretty cool thing. But yeah, no, it is based off the 1984 cartoon, which is based...
Sure is.
For those who don't know, is based
Oh yeah, let's
off...
talk... What is it based off?
It's based off of a Japanese show called Beast King Go Lion.
Oh, okay, yeah. No, I was wondering if you were about to say if it was like based off of a manga or something.
Oh,
Which
I
it
don't
very
know,
well
maybe.
could be. I don't know.
Could be. I have no idea. I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't know.
I think it was an original thing. It came out during the super robot craze in the early 80s of Japan. So, yeah.
That has lasted probably till now.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
They really like that stuff. Gundam got really big with that.
Yep.
But yeah.
We're getting another Pacific Rim, that trailer, or that, like, promo video is out.
Oh,
have you seen that?
Pacific Rim? I heard about it. But I haven't actually seen...
It's like an ad or a promo for Jaegers, like, in that world. Like, if someone was watching TV in the world of Pacific
like
Rim.
a propaganda thing? Like a join up with us?
Yeah.
Sam needs, or America needs you kind of thing?
Same thing. It's more like, man, look how cool this big old robot is. You should get on this big old robot and be awesome like
That's
us.
awesome.
That's exactly what it is. It's great. It's super cool.
I heard John Boyega from...
Yeah, he's in there. He plays the son of Idris Elba's character, I think.
Yeah.
That's what I hear.
We're canceling the apocalypse.
Yeah. Ain't no more apocalypse.
I really like that. I really like that movie. I hope that's good. I know it's basically been like shelved for a while, but anyway.
Yeah, well, I think there was some. I think it was up in the air for a bit, as if it was going to get a sequel.
Yeah.
But of course it is, because it's giant robots. You can't go wrong with giant robots, David. Actually, you can. You can do that. Let's make an episode of that. Episode of Giant Robots Gone Wrong.
Giant robots gone wrong. Yeah, I don't know.
But first, let's talk about Voltron.
Yeah, let's do that.
I feel like more than Studio Mir.
Yeah, there was one other company. Studio Mir did most of the animation, though.
But people, I'm feeling like
World Event Productions.
No.
Oh.
Human beings.
Oh.
There are human beings attached to this, who are also attached to Avatar. I believe. I know we should know this already. It doesn't matter.
It would be in the
Joaquim dos Santos. Joaquim dos Santos.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he had a hand in at least some of
you and your
previous Avatar stuff, and so it's really cool. I love this show. Mm-hmm. I think it's being helmed by some really great talent, and because of that, I hope we get plenty more of it.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if you heard. Well, I don't want to take this.
Just assume I didn't.
I don't want to take this as like gospel truth, because from when I followed up the source.
Well, once it's said on our podcast, it is gospel truth. So be careful.
I have read that Netflix has committed to 78 episodes of this show.
Woo! Gosh, yes. Give me all them episodes.
But when I followed that, like I was reading, it said, oh, so and so at WonderCon said this, and then when I went to that post, they were like, yeah, so somebody at WonderCon said that they heard somebody else at Toy Fest say, and so it's very...
Who heard it from a guy working at Toys R Us in the back.
Right. So I don't know how official that is, especially since the first episode of Voltron was 11 episodes, or first season was 11 episodes.
Uh-huh.
The second season was 13 episodes. They've confirmed that this current season that's coming up in a week.
15.
It's going to be 7 episodes.
7.
And then
That's
2 months later,
strange.
we're going to get season 4.
More? All right, I'm all right.
We're going to get season 4 2 months later.
If you pump them out faster, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, so I don't know how many episodes we're actually going to get, but it looks like they're going to be keep coming.
I watched a video about it.
But 7 episodes. I'm gonna knock that in a day. Like
I like to spread mine out, but I don't know. Maybe we'll knock it out faster so we can review it sooner. I don't know. But I don't know. I've watched a couple of videos about Voltron. So like I went into this knowing the concept of Voltron. I knew what Voltron was.
Yeah.
I knew that.
What is Voltron, Ethan?
So we didn't even talk about what Voltron is. Let's talk about that. For anyone who doesn't know and has made it this far into the podcast.
We're sorry?
Yeah.
No, just kidding.
For anyone who doesn't know, the concept of Voltron is similar to Power Rangers in a way. So there are these guys called Paladins, guys or girls called Paladins, and
there's at least one girl.
They pilot giant lion-shaped robots.
Yeah.
I think they're more cat-shaped, because everyone says lion, but none of them have a characteristic lion mane. So, like, how do you know the difference? How do you know this isn't a tiger or a cougar, which I guess technically is a mountain lion?
Well, I mean, the Japanese show was called Go Lion, so...
Look. But I'm saying, if you look at this thing, everyone in this show looked at this mech and was like, oh, that's a lion. Like, if I would have seen this in live, I would have been like, that's a tiger. That's a cat, really. It's a big old cat. I wouldn't have jumped to a lion. Puma. Lion, I feel, is it's a puma.
You're making up animals.
I feel like lion was a real specific jump.
Yeah, no, I get that.
That everyone made. Like, oh yeah, it's a lion, obviously.
I mean, that's like in Power Rangers calling all the Rangers Zords in Season 1 dinosaurs when the saber-toothed tiger wasn't a dinosaur, and the pterodactyl wasn't, and Mastodon wasn't a dinosaur, the pterodactyl wasn't a dinosaur.
Okay, anyways, back to explaining what this show is. They pilot these 5 lions, and these 5 lions can form together. They all join up together, almost Transformer-esque fashion, to become one big robot called Voltron.
Yeah.
And Voltron is super awesome, mega powerful, and fights evil and defends good and righteousness and just and all that nonsense. Defender of the weak and protector. He's great. It's cool. A lot of reviews that I read that I like and agree with. Well, I say I agree with. I didn't watch Voltron really as a kid.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen similar shows to it, Power Rangers and different things of that nature. A lot of people said that this show, the current Netflix show, is what like the perfect picture of nostalgia is of Voltron from the 80s. Yeah. Because Voltron from the 80s wasn't that great. It did a lot of good things for cartoons at the time, sure. But it wasn't, like, it's not
like if you were to take that footage again, you really couldn't do anything to fix it and make it actually good. Yeah.
Feels enough like it and maintains a lot of the similar things from it and themes, and is executed so well that it's like this perfect nostalgia baby. The perfect, I keep saying perfect, it's like, I honestly think it's one of the best reboots of a nostalgic series that we've seen. Gosh, it's good.
Yeah. It's pretty dang good. I like it. No, I get that. Like, it definitely feels like, if you were to watch Voltron with your nostalgia goggles, as a lot of people describe it, like, this show looks like how that would feel, I think. I think that, like, it, especially for me, like you said, like, neither of us were, like, huge fans of the 1980s Voltron show. We didn't really grow up with it. But like, with my, loving of Power Rangers and stuff like that, like, it was an easy transition for sure.
I wish they would do this treatment to a Power Rangers series.
That'd be great.
I think that would be so
They're doing something similar to it with the current Power Ranger comics that Boom Studio's been doing. Like, those comics are really really awesome, and like they're now starting another comic called Go Go Power Rangers, which is going to specifically follow the Rangers, like, from when they first gained their coins, like, starting from episode 1 of Power Rangers, because the current comic starts up, like, it basically starts up, like, issue 1 starts up when Tommy has joined the team and they've removed his connection to Rita. Like, he's still the Green Ranger, but he's no longer evil, basically. And so he's joined up with the team. And so it's a little bit in the middle of their story, which is, like, mid-season 2 and stuff. And they're all doing different things that they weren't doing in the show at least, but it's still stuff that you can be like, oh, I mean, I guess this could have happened off screen or whatever. It's not a big deal, but you know, I don't know how canon it is. I'm gonna say it's not canon though. But yeah, so one of the things I think this show really has going well for it is it's definitely its cast. They got a lot of really good voice talent. One of the first ones that stuck out to me when I was watching this originally was the man who plays Keith is Stephen Ewan, who plays Glenn from Walking Dead, and that, like, I recognize his voice like right off the bat. Like, I've heard a few people that are like, oh, he doesn't really sound like Glenn, and it's really neat that he's branching out. And I was like, no, he sounds just like Glenn to me. Like, I was like, right. I picked him out of a crowd. I was like, this guy sounds just like Glenn. It was really good, but he does a great job. He plays the rebel character of the team, which is neat. And they also have Jeremy Shada, who plays Lance. He's the voice of Finn the Human from Adventure Time. He's the star of Adventure Time. So that was a really big name on there. And the other person I recognized was Bex Taylor. Klaus? I think that's her name. She voices Pidge. And I recognized her because from Arrow. She played Sin in season 2 and 3 of Arrow.
Yeah, that's kind of neat. Cool.
She was one of Roy's friends.
By the way, spoiler alert for everything in Voltron. We're gonna go through both seasons.
Yeah, sure.
And
sure.
Yeah, I mean, we may not specifically intend to spoil things.
Yeah,
but we will.
Yeah, I'm not gonna just
because we're gonna talk about this stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
Go see it if you haven't seen it. If you haven't seen this show and you have the least bit of interest in animated shows that are awesome, go watch it, write meow, and then come back.
In some of my research, in some of the casts and stuff of this show, I learned some things about the rest of the cast members of the show that I didn't know. Like, I didn't know that the guy who voices Hunk was in, he played Dale from Tucker and Dale versus Evil, which I don't know if you've ever seen that movie.
Nope.
I actually physically haven't seen the movie, but I know of it. It's Alan Tudyk and this guy playing Dale and Tucker, and they play these hillbillies in the woods that live, isolated in the woods, and basically these like stupid teenagers come out to the woods like a stereotypical like horror movie or whatever, and like they see these two hillbillies basically, and they think they're like murderers, and they keep like trying to avoid them, but in the process of doing so, they keep like accidentally killing themselves. Like like one kid like ends up in a wood chipper or whatever, and the guy's like trying to pull the body out of the wood chipper, and so it's just like, and these two guys are just like so confused, and all these kids are just like killing themselves around them, and these kids think they're in a horror movie.
Excellent. That sounds good. I've heard of it. I have not.
Yeah, and also the guy who plays Emperor Zarkon, Neil Kaplan. He's done a lot of different things. He's done a lot of voice acting, but I'm not very familiar with a lot of his voice acting. One of the things I thought was very interesting was when we were talking about Power Rangers, he played like a crap ton of Power Ranger villains and big bad Beetleborg villains. Like he voiced them. Like the guy, there's like because the villains were all like dudes in suits in the Japanese footage that was brought over. So like they didn't actually have an American guy in the suits much doing stuff. So they mostly just had voice actors voicing the roles. And he voiced like a crap ton of bad guys from the old 90s shows.
That makes sense. He fits in. What a resume that must have been to turn in.
Right.
You're like, guys, don't worry about it. I got this. Just hand it in. Power Rangers, Beetleborg.
Right.
Name a giant robot show. I played this part in all of them.
I played the villain in all of them.
Easy.
Yeah.
That's cool.
It was very neat.
So, we talked about cast. How about we talk about the actual characters themselves?
Yes.
I like them all quite a bit.
Yeah.
Shiro's real cool. Shiro's the leader.
So boss.
Oh, he's
Shiro
so cool.
So much.
He's so at the beginning of the series, you see him get abducted and then released from capture by the Galra, who are the bad guys.
The bad guys, yeah.
And so he comes in,
the Galra Empire,
having been gone for 2 years, having basically no memories about his time being gone, and now he's got a cyborg arm. His right arm is all cybernetic. Really cool.
Yeah.
Also, he can fight really well. He's from the military.
Yep.
I think he's a pilot by trade. I'm not super sure.
I'm not sure. Yeah, he's professional for sure. He's got some training for sure. I like that. So like just like Power Rangers and other shows like that. I like that the Paladins, when they first become Paladins, they gain like weapons, individual weapons. And
yes.
Shiro doesn't
gets
have
nothing.
a weapon, and so he just uses his mechanical arm to just fight
He's like,
people.
nah, it's
And
not
I
good, bro.
love
Let's
that
go.
so
Yeah,
much.
he's
Just
so
unarmed
cool.
fighting.
Gosh, David. Gosh, he's so cool.
So I'm a big fan of the characters. I think one of the things I like about the characters is that I find them kind of neat and relatable. One of the
Who's your favorite character, David?
I like Hunk. I like Hunk,
You like
a lot.
Hunk a lot?
Yeah, he like when I say relatable, like I feel like Hunk.
Yeah,
Like, I feel like
no,
Hunk all the
feel
dang
you.
time.
Yeah, I get that.
But I also like Lance for two reasons.
Because he's hilarious.
One, he's basically Sokka from
Yes,
Avatar.
he so totally is.
But on the other side, I use Lance as like my username for like so many different things.
Lance
I love that
Borg.
name. I love that name so much, and it just doesn't.
It's a cool
whatever.
name.
But yeah, so those are things I like. But then
This show makes me laugh out loud so many times, and I love that. We can talk about that later. But like, Lance is one of the reasons because he's quite funny. He tries to be a ladies' man, but he really just isn't.
Yeah. I mean, he's like Brock and all the other characters.
He's cool. He's fun. He has the capability of being really awesome, but like his ego is too large.
Yeah.
To allow him to do anything cool, I think. He just kind of falls flat, falls on
Yeah.
his face a lot, inserts foot into mouth
Right.
quite often.
So one of the gripes I was hearing on reviews I was reading was that a lot of people were saying that they didn't like how like the characters fits too much into archetypes. Like you had the fat one who always talked about food. You had the ladies' man who was the kind of the comic relief, and you had the rebel, you had the hero, and you had the tech genius.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And like they're like, oh, why do we have to fit these roles and stuff like that? But honestly, I didn't have a problem.
Probably
with
because it's a kids show.
Yeah, but like my thing is like I didn't have a problem with that either because
I thought it was fun. Yeah.
I find it like neat, like a neat way to kind of like organize the characters in my mind. Like it helps for me. It's an easy mental connection for me to be like, okay, this character is that. And I can not have to worry about getting too deep or whatever and stuff like that. And then my thing is like, I feel like that makes it easier for characters like that to grow, to become, something new, and for us to, as an audience, to see that growth because we saw at the beginning of the show how rather one-dimensional the characters were, and so when we learn more about them as time goes on, it's more visible. It's more you're able to notice that because of how easy it was to get to know them up front.
Yeah.
So I mean, I don't know. I find it a very comfortable story. I like, what is it? Plot device? Yeah.
Yeah.
Plot device. Yeah.
I think it's fine. I don't mind having characters like that aren't too terribly complicated.
Yeah.
But even that being said, there are still plenty of things that are complex about these characters.
Definitely.
Pidge. We see early on that she, first off, is just a female,
and not the boy she's pretending to be.
She's pretending to be.
Yeah.
We learned that in episode 3 or.
Ooh, I don't know. Maybe
5. I heard 6, but I don't know if it was that far.
Maybe it was 6. I don't know. It was a little bit. It was
the
a
whole.
bit before we
I say
noticed.
we. You suspected it.
I suspected.
I kind of suspected it.
I suspected it once I found the voice actor was a female.
And then when it's revealed,
which was episode 1.
When it's revealed, basically everybody in the group already knew it or suspected it themselves, like the other characters, I mean.
Yeah.
With the exception of Lance, because, again, he's the stereotypical idiot.
So, I recently saw some footage of the original Voltron a little bit, and I was watching this thing and people were talking about it a little bit, and the character designs, like their costumes and stuff like that, is actually pretty close to how it was back in the day.
That's the cool thing, is that they didn't change a whole lot visually. They just kind of gave it an upgrade.
Yeah.
All the paladins look very similar. Even the lions look very, very similar. And Voltron himself looks very similar. And I think that served to help this show so much. Like, this show wasn't trying to be a gritty reboot. It was trying to be the soul of this show from the 80s, just cranked up to 11 and really, really cool and smooth.
Going back to the characters a little bit, what did you think of Koran and Princess Allura?
So Princess Allura is probably my favorite character in this
show.
Really? I love her.
She's great.
She's awesome.
She's excellent.
Her voice actor's really cool.
Yeah.
Don't ask me her name. I don't know it. But she's, like, her voice is great. I love that. I love listening. I can listen to that chick all day. Yeah, Kimberly Brooks.
I didn't know this until I
Awesome.
looked up her stuff. She voices Ashley Williams from Mass Effect, who's one of the
cool.
one of your like she's like she's in all the games basically.
Disclaimer: I've never played Mass Effect.
That's okay.
Yeah.
In the first 2 games, she's a character you can date, I believe.
Awesome.
But I usually don't because her character's kind of racist to aliens.
Wow.
And I'm like, I don't want to date a racist. No, I'm just kidding. I don't.
Oddly enough, Allura's kind of racist towards Galra.
This is true. That's very true.
She's
like, real good at playing
she's
that.
real nice at everybody to
Yeah.
everyone, and she's just kind of purveyor of kindness and tolerance and love and protection towards basically everyone except for the Galra race, which is the race that wiped out her family and planet, which is more or less understandable. But it's interesting to watch her grow with that later on in the series. She has to kind of come to grips with that a little bit more, which is interesting.
It's a little bit like when you talked about with our Gargantua and the Virtuos planet a few episodes ago. You talked about what's his name?
Leto,
yeah, and his thing with the
Helios.
I was like, I'm just gonna keep giving you looks, and you're gonna keep giving me information.
David just gave me faces.
I promise.
Every time he tried to say something.
I promise I listened to the episode.
Yeah, no, yeah, but you ain't watched it, has you?
Nope, never seen the show.
Come on, David. It's like 12 episodes.
I'll get to it. You got me on Yu Yu Hakusho. Come on now.
Oh gosh, you need to finish the crap out of that. You watched any more of that?
No, not yet. It's 100 some odd episodes. I'll get to it.
It's okay. I'll just buy the rest of the series when we're at San Japan this year.
Right.
And we'll watch it all here, David.
Right. Quick tangent.
No tangents allowed. We're talking about Yu Yu Hakusho.
Yeah, right. Yu Yu Hakusho now. Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju.
I will spit my drink when you say that.
The show I've been trying to get you to watch.
Yeah.
Their manga just started getting printed here in America.
Oh, cool. I'll probably read that.
I'm probably start buying the crap out of that
I'd
manga.
do that sooner than I watch an anime.
Yeah, no, I figured. I'm
Nothing
thinking
wrong with anime.
What I'm probably gonna do is buy it and then just lend it to you to read.
Just leave it in my house in
Right.
random places.
Right.
So I'm preparing for work, and it's like volume 1 of say the word.
Descending Stories is what the manga will say on it.
What?
They're
not gonna give it that ridiculously complicated name.
It's in the little subtext.
Say the name for me.
The title is Showa Genroku. Ah, gosh!
Just-
It's when you put me on the spot.
No. Just close your eyes, and I'm not here.
Showa Genroku Rakugo Shinju.
Yep, got it. Okay, cool. Yep. I'll be like, oh, that's the first episode of insert title here.
Insert.
Just take it with me.
I
to
was
work.
really messed up. We posted that episode when I
Yeah.
talked about it, right? And then later, I was like, this past week, I was trying to research it, and I typed it into Google. I typed the title into Google the way we typed it in the episode, and Google was like, did you mean? And they tried to correct my spelling, and I was like, oh gosh, did I misspell it? And then I click on it, and all of the links below showed I spelled it correctly, and Google had misspelled it. And I was just like, yes!
That's right.
Get out of my face!
Smarter than Google, dog. What's up? Get out of here. Nah.
Goodness gracious. But yeah, anyway, Voltron.
I don't know where we were, so I'm gonna just track back. I like Allura a lot.
Yes. Yeah.
She's really cool. She's a really strong female character.
I like that she's not a damsel in distress.
Nah, she's
That's
the boss.
so great.
She can control a castle. She can throw up shields, shoot stuff. She's really, really cool. She can change her form slightly, and so she opts to go in on missions on like undercover
she
stuff.
she just like recon and stuff.
Gosh,
That's
she's
very
cool.
neat.
Yeah, and she's a very active member of the group.
I didn't know this about.
She was originally a paladin. In the
Yeah, I was
original
gonna say.
show.
I was like, yeah,
But
somebody
they changed that, but I'm fine with that. I think they changed it for the better. And I think she's really, really cool. I don't miss her being a paladin. I don't feel like we miss anything from it. And that remains to be seen. She could very well become a paladin later on in the show.
For sure. Yeah. She become the Sixth Ranger. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, she become the Special Ranger.
Right.
The white or the gold or the green.
I don't know if Voltron.
Or the orange. Nope,
right?
It'll never be the orange.
Never be the orange. Nope.
No one likes my favorite color.
I don't know why orange never gets the thing.
Oh, gosh. Even the Orange Lantern is larfleeze.
Just one. Yeah, there's just one of them.
No.
But I mean, like, that's the nature of the Orange Lantern, I guess.
I guess.
Greed.
Not
that any of the Rangers would be that
anyway,
way.
Allura's cool. You asked me about Karan.
Karan, yeah.
He's hilarious.
He's
I like
great.
him a lot. He's the one point where I think the show gets too campy. Like he is if there's any campiness about this show, it is Karan.
Yeah. Most of his comic relief is very kid friendly. It's very
kid friendly.
It's very pandering to kids a little bit, but I really enjoy it.
I agree with that. Some of
thoroughly
it's also very dad humor.
Dad humor,
which is fine.
I love that.
I like him a lot. No, I like his accent's real fun.
I love the mustache.
Mustache is great.
I like
one of my favorite comic relief scenes in this show is when they're stuck in the time loop in the
Yes,
first
I was gonna
episode
say.
of season 2.
Yeah, he's just getting younger and younger.
Yes, Karez's getting younger and younger, but his mustache never leaves.
So I didn't know this. So I've talked to you before about Rise Darby, the guy who voices Corinne. He's a New Zealand the comedian, right?
Yeah.
He's been apparently done a lot of other things that I was finding out about today, and I found out this past week that when he gets younger and like they have like kids and stuff like that, when he becomes a teenager, when he becomes a child, his actual kids voice the younger versions of Corinne, right?
That's so cool,
right? That's so neat.
That's
I
the
thought that
best
was great.
thing I've ever heard. Oh yes.
I thought that was just so awesome. Yeah, no, I mean like they do very good stuff, and I think it's very neat. One of the things I think is interesting about Voltron in general, like not just this show, but like kind of the world it's set in, is that like it's kind of a sci-fi, but there's magical elements. Like Voltron in and of itself is a blend of magic and technology.
That's the thing I wanted to talk about or get to later, is that I love the world that they've built.
Yeah.
But in an attempt to try and stay on topic,
For sure.
let's go through the rest of the characters.
Okay.
We have not talked about Pidge or Keith.
Or really Hunk, I guess.
Or really Hunk, yeah, if we want to expound on Hunk.
No, I mean he's just a fat guy who likes to eat, but he's really funny and I like him.
Just a fat guy.
He's very loyal too. He's very good. I like him a lot, and he's also like I don't know. He's very protective of his team, I think, and that's very neat, especially with his style of lion. Like his lion is like probably the toughest and takes the most damage, so he's always like stepping out in front of danger and stuff. It's very neat.
I really like the way when he first gets his line and he comes in, he's in that moment. He's saving Lance from just being exploded. I don't even think he did it on purpose though, because he's also kind of
he's also the scaredy kid. Yeah, he's also goof and he doesn't
like, oh, I was just trying to get out of here.
Yeah.
Just happened to intercept these missiles.
But yeah, and that's one of the things you start to see him grow into as the show progresses, which is very cool.
Very, very true. Yeah,
we talked about Lance a little bit. He's the goofball as well. Pidge, we talked about briefly.
Right, yes. Actually, a girl related to so when Shiro was abducted at the beginning, 2 other people were with Shiro. They were on a moon of Pluto, I think.
Yes.
Which is interesting because Pluto has a moon, if I recall correctly.
Yes.
That's only slightly smaller than itself.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah. I did a report on Pluto when I was in 8th grade.
Oh, wow.
And then a couple years later, they were like, "Hey, you remember that planet you
who knew it would?
You did a report on? Yeah, it's not a planet. What are you? Look at you, look at you, moron!
You chose the one
like,
planet that doesn't exist." Have you seen? I love the T-shirts that people have made where it's like, "Don't worry, Pluto. I'm not a planet either."
Yeah, no, I love it. Yes. Oh my gosh. No, it was an interesting thing because I like Pluto. It was interesting to learn about it because Pluto has, like I said, I think just one moon. And rather than the moon circling around Pluto, they both kind of circulate around each other. I think is what some at the time that I did that research, which was years ago, which could be very wrong now. I think that was the research that
that could have been one of the many reasons Pluto is no longer a planet.
Yeah, I don't know.
But yeah.
Any hoozles, they were on Pluto's moon, I think. And they were pulling out cylinders of ice. They were pulling out ice.
Yeah,
they were just researching, and they get abducted by the Galra.
Yeah.
And so Shiro's there, and the 2 people he's with is the main scientist is Pidge's dad, and the scientist's assistant is Pidge's brother.
Yeah.
Older brother.
The scientist.
They get abducted. So Pidge's basically whole mission in joining the military.
Joining the military that he meets Hunk and Lance at.
Right. Is so that she can eventually get out into space and find her brother and father.
Yes.
Because she believes, according back on Earth, everyone is told that mission failed and that they all died.
Yes.
But she refuses to believe that.
Yep.
Which is good because it's wrong.
Nice. Yeah. And then especially when she runs into Shiro and she knew Shiro was on that mission.
Yes. And so
that's very neat.
It's interesting to see see her grow, see her learn things, see her sort of come to grips with the fact that her dad and brother are captives of the Galra Empire.
So, something I didn't know about the Pidge from the original Voltron is that apparently, like, he was a little bit unhinged.
Oh, neat.
And I don't know if that ever really portrays itself in this version of the show. Like, he was, like, a little bit...
I don't know.
Because he's just a little bit crazy. Like, not enough that it was scary crazy, but just enough that, like... You know, we got a little boy running around with a grenade in his hand, and his team is telling him to not do that. And I'm just like, that's odd.
I think they channeled that into Pidge's obsession, or not obsession, but like ridiculous level genius, basically.
Yeah.
Which at times is hard to believe, but whatever.
Sure.
You give it a pass. She.
I mean, that's the same way I felt with.
She reconfigures like a Galra robot to just be her little helper.
Yep.
In like seconds.
Yeah, she hacks an alien.
And I'm like,
device.
I don't believe this. But okay, fine.
Yeah,
whatever.
No, I get that. And it's like
I'll give you a pass.
That's the same way with Billy, from Power Rangers. The original Blue Ranger was like helping Alpha repair the Zords and stuff like that. And I was just like, oh yeah, like this kid's gonna know how to how to build a Zord.
Yep. He's got it.
Yep.
Locked it in.
Yep.
Took Zords in 8th grade.
Yep. They do a better way of explaining it in the comics though than they do in the show, obviously, but.
Well, because they've had more time to think it out now.
Yeah, exactly. It's been 20 some odd years.
You're like, yeah, we should probably revisit this. Which I think is another blessing to this show, is that it's had so long for people to look at it and be like, "What? How can we really make this better?"
Yeah, I think
this cool.
It definitely goes back to what we were talking about when we talked about movie adaptations, where we were like, "This is like so." We were talking about how like a good way to do an adaptation of something is to kind of figure out like what it was that made that great, and just kind of expound upon that. And I think that's what this does very much. I think it gets the characters the people found interesting. It gets the giant robot that fights the monsters, and it brings them into this world that makes it very interesting.
Yeah. Keith is the. Oh, also we haven't mentioned who these people pilot. So Shiro pilots the Black Lion. He's the leader of the group. Hunk is the yellow lion.
Yep.
Lance is the blue lion. Paige is the green lion.
Yeah.
And last but not least, Keith is the red lion. Keith is the hotshot rebel pilot guy who really likes Shiro.
He dropped out of the pilot school.
Yeah, dropped out of pilot school. He's apparently got a temper. He fights a lot. Yada.
Yeah.
He's the kid
He's
who
kind of got a rivalry with Lance, but it's mostly Lance.
It's mostly Lance. Yeah, mostly Lance being like, "Hey, you." I'm just as good as you. And Keith is being like,
sure.
Nah. But okay. And Keith is sort of set up as this character that Shido sort of takes under his wing and tries to help him become better because he has a lot of potential, but he's just kind of getting in his own way. But there's a lot of intrigue behind him as well.
Yeah.
Because we know he has a knife that's part of the Galra rebellion. So there's a rebel force within the Galra that are trying to take down the Galra as well.
Oh, yeah,
what are they called?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, what are they called? It's something like Blade or something, I think.
The Blade
of Marmora.
Yeah.
The Blade of Marmora.
Yeah.
And so this is a rebel group, and they all have a blade. They all have a sword that's like sort of connects them in some way, and they pass through some
I forget, did they
system of rights.
How did he get it again? He was given it.
We don't know. Yeah, supposedly he was given it at birth. Supposedly he's just had it from his parents, and the Gaul were like, "No, that's not possible."
Okay, I thought I was.
And they put him through some trials and yada yada yada.
Yeah, I thought there was something I missed or something. But I was just like, no, I feel like.
But that's one of the things that we still don't know. But just like Pidge's parents, we still don't know where Pidge's parents or dad and brother are.
Yeah.
We still don't know about Keith.
Yeah.
Honestly, we still don't know about Shido.
We don't really know anything about Hunk.
Yeah, so like Hunk and Lance are the only two that are kind of like the goofy kids from Earth.
Yeah.
That don't really seem to have much of a dark past or a mystery about them. We don't know a whole lot about them personally, other than Hunk is a big guy that gets motion sickness real easily, apparently.
Yeah.
And likes food. Lance really likes girls to the point where he makes some really dumb decisions and gets the group into a lot of trouble at various parts. But yeah, other than that, the only ones that seem to have a dark past to uncover at this point are Keith, Shido, and Pidge. But yeah, if we can go back to Allura for a second, because she's great. She's also she's a princess.
Yeah.
And she has a connection to these mice.
Yep.
So, qualifying for Disney princess status.
Which apparently was something she could do in the original show, but apparently it was never really explained why.
I'm willing to bet most things that have been explained to us now were never explained in the previous.
Yeah, I definitely like that they did explain it in this series.
I learned that on one of the videos I watched, they mentioned that the episodes were not aired in order.
Oh wow, that's odd.
Familiar, yeah.
How do people get things done?
I wonder if Fox did that. No, I don't know where they aired it originally,
that's
but
nuts.
yeah. So like, even if they had explained everything in the show, some people probably wouldn't have gotten it. But I mean, like back then,
yeah,
it was probably harder to watch a show in series anyway.
Yeah, it was probably a lot more episodic and not they didn't fit a formula as opposed to how it does here.
Overarching effect or overarching story. Sorry.
Yeah.
Really cool. Villains. So we've got.
we can go into the villains. I guess we have the Galra Empire, but we have Emperor Zarkon.
Zarkon is the big baddie,
and he's got his top druid, witch Hagar.
Yeah.
Who was a person that wasn't from the original show. Apparently, originally in the show, the old show, the 1984 show, Voltron was just one robot.
Yes.
It was just one thing.
Correct.
And our Zarkon, or in this, he was King Zarkon. He got the witch Hagar to kill Voltron, and instead, what happened is she did this spell that was supposed to kill Voltron, but instead of killing him, it just turned it into the 5 lines. Yeah. And so I was just like, that's an interesting thing.
I'm glad that's not the case now.
Right? Yeah. No, it's much different now.
It's interesting. Spoiler, obviously, is that like we find out towards the end of season 1 that Zarkon is the previous Black Lion Paladin, which is just interesting beyond belief. It's super cool.
It's very great, and I think it's similar to what they did with the Power Ranger movie, in that like they wanted to make the villain interesting by making him in some way connected to the heroes.
Yes,
which I thought that was so neat. It was a very neat twist.
Very very cool.
Yeah, I like the twist that this show takes. I like that the show. I think it has a really good use of tone in that like it's funny when it needs to be funny and it's serious when it needs to be serious.
Yes, I agree.
It feels a lot like it. It's very comparable, honestly, to Avatar: The Last Airbender.
Yes,
where it's like the first 2 seasons of Avatar, like Aang is like learning how to airbend, waterbend, and all these different things, and he's trying to like learn all the elements and stuff. But it's like there's definitely a war going on off screen, and you know what I mean, like, and that's how it is here in Voltron. It's like they're kind of like learning how to figure out how all their robots work and how Voltron informs and all these different things. And it's like meanwhile, Zarkon is like definitely taking over the rest of the galaxy, and they have to get out there and do that at some point. And when they do end up fighting him a few times throughout, when they do end up clashing, it's serious. They do take it very seriously. And
I like that the villain is threatening.
Yes,
this villain feels as though he would kill you, and so does the Galra Empire. The Galra Empire is enormous.
Yeah.
When you finally get to the fight in the last episode of season 1, Zarkon's just out in space, hanging out, beating people up with his bare hands.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
And it is nasty. It's monstrous. This man.
Yes.
It's plus he's like 10,000 years old.
Yeah.
We find out that Allora's been asleep for 10,000 years, along with Karan. Karan.
Yeah, they were like a stasis pod or something like that.
Yeah, for 10,000 years.
And
Zarkon's just hanging
out
out
and about.
Yep,
yeah,
same as he was 10,000 years prior.
Again, it has some.
It's another thing we haven't
really touched on, but they've kind of like messed with it a little bit. Like we know it has something to do with the witch. We know it has something to do with magic and the druids he hires. Because like I was mentioning before, there's this interesting blend of magic and technology.
Yes.
Like I like that. Like he basically has like a Death Star type thing where it's like a laser that shoots and destroys planets, but the laser isn't like this big machine that coils around and stuff like that. It's a bunch of dudes standing on platforms casting a spell all at the same time.
Yeah,
I think that's very
casting
neat.
a laser spell.
Right? I think it's very cool.
Yeah. Channeling the dark side of the Force.
The quintessence or something.
That.
Yeah, that. The dark side of the Force. Yeah, well, you know. But yeah.
Excellent. It's good. Yeah, I like the villain. Let's talk about the world. I really love the world building they do in this show.
Definitely.
And I absolutely love just how we come to care about all these characters.
Yeah.
And all the different worlds they travel to.
I like the interesting designs of the planets they go to and the people they meet. In that. I mean, generally the aliens tend to be humanoids, like most alien things people do. It's tough to really get an alien that doesn't, seem it.
So for that guy towards the end of season 2 who was like a half ferret, half centipede looking guy.
Oh yeah.
The guy with the Indian accent who had to have everything perfect, or he was always calculating.
Oh yeah.
All the different ways that something could go wrong.
Yeah.
I was like,
no,
no, you have to wear this shirt today, otherwise we're all gonna die.
Right. Yeah. I was like, what the heck? Yeah. No, he's very weird. But no, that was an interesting character. But yeah, like some of the scenery and some of the places they go with, like the people that mine the crystals and stuff that they had to get for their ship and all those different things. Like, there's some neat locations they go to.
Yeah, because they go to plenty of places, and they go to some places that are very peaceful and fine and don't have any real issues. And they go to
Styx or whatever where the war hasn't hit them yet.
They go to a mall in the middle of the universe that's just like really big technological marvel. It's just this enormous indoor mall, like a space station type deal. They go to plenty of places that have been ravaged by the war, by the Galra Empire.
Yeah.
Just really fascinating stuff, and you get to see the effect that war has had on a lot of these different groups.
Definitely.
It's really, really cool and really interesting. There's also plenty of bits where the team is not all together.
Yeah.
Which I feel is fun.
Yeah, I think that's very
useful.
neat. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It helps us, I think, as an audience, like, not, I guess, rely on the team always being together. Because it definitely presents it in a way that the team is stronger together.
Yes.
But it's also neat to see them each individually being a capable character who can handle situations that they face.
I feel like that's important too, because that shows you how individual growth will help the team
as a whole. Yeah.
And that's cool. It's real cool.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Another reason that I just love this show is because I love good animation, especially good anime or good anime-esque animation.
So I was gonna
that has no fan service.
I was gonna mention, fan service. Yeah, okay.
No fan service,
really,
and it's just good, and it's not. There aren't a whole lot of adult or suggestive themes.
Yeah,
there's good, awesome fight scenes. There's good seriousness and darkness when there needs to be. It's not over the top. There's no bad coarse language or anything of that nature. It's just a good, solid show that you can watch with anyone, and you could recommend to anyone, and they would enjoy it. And I love that about animation, and I support that anytime I find it.
Yeah, definitely. So, to touch on the animation a little bit, I really like the blend of 2D animation with CGI animation with the fights.
I think they do it really well.
And I have a question.
I have an answer.
Would you consider this an anime?
Yeah.
Why?
Because A, it's based off of an anime, more or less,
Yeah.
Japanese show. B, it has that sort of style.
Yep.
I feel it does anyway, and I feel like it has that similar dynamic to a lot of anime.
Yep.
I just badly want good anime, so I'm gonna say this is anime.
I like
good as in wholesome.
Yeah, yeah. I agree with you. I do believe it's anime too. I know this is one of those things people don't always believe. I'm of the opinion that that Avatar is anime and Korra is anime. Those things like that. Like, I believe that anime is
Castlevania.
more of a movement than a specifically Japan thing. Because Studio Mir is a Korean animation company.
Yes.
And the show itself was written by Americans, but it's based off of a Japanese show.
Yep.
So it's like there's almost there's barely any like anime to the show as far as it being Japanese.
Yeah, if you're gonna say some quote unquote strict rule that anime has to be from Japan, then there's not a whole lot of anime to this show, but there's plenty of it. There really is.
It definitely
is.
It definitely fits the bill.
Cross culture and international, and I think the more we limit it, I think the smaller and more elite and more snobby and dumb the community of anime would be.
Yeah, I think that. I believe that.
I love that anyone can make anime. Anyone can make manga.
Yeah.
Anyone can do that. You don't have to be from Japan. And I hope and pray that that's the case, because one thing I want to do is make manga.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
Yeah.
Very cool.
I'm okay with that. But the animation is great. If you liked any of the Avatar animation, you'll like this. It looks very similar.
Yeah, it's definitely their style. Like, you definitely see their style in this.
It is like we said before, it's a good blend of 3D and 2D. The 2D is very fluid. It's very fun. If you like anime but you don't like the tendency of a lot of older anime, especially, and some current anime to like monologue during fights and not have super impressive fights or have really fights that are drawn out for too long. This is a good anime, I think, because all the fights are quick. They're good
as long as you need to be.
Yes. And there's not a whole lot of that nonsense. Everything's really fluid. It's visceral. You can feel the impact of these things.
Yes,
of the hits and of the misses. And gosh, it's good.
Yeah. One of the things I wonder is, I know for Avatar and Korra, they had like a martial arts consultant to help with the animation of all the fights and stuff, and the bending, like the air bending and water bending and earth bending in the show. I wonder if they had a similar thing with Voltron.
I don't doubt it. I bet someone somewhere was like, yeah, this is probably the best way to handle this situation.
Yeah.
Or this is probably the fighting style we'd want the Galra to have.
Yeah.
Or this is what we'd want Shiro to know. And things like that.
Because the fight scenes are real done.
They're real good.
Really well done. Yeah, I'm a fan. I like the weapons too.
I was just about to say, we didn't talk about that much when we were talking about the characters.
Like Keith is the only one with like a melee weapon, right? Like, or Keith and Pidge.
So Keith has a longsword, sort of like a rapier.
Yeah.
Pidge has a very small like dagger, like triangular dagger.
Yeah, like a blade that covers his fist, basically.
Yeah, like brass knuckle dagger.
And he can like shoot it out.
Yeah.
But he gains that ability later on. Like at first it's just a thing he can hit people with, like kind of like
Pidge?
like a brass knuckle thing, but sharp. And then Shiro is like he fights with his fists, so like he's up close. But like Hunk
has
Lance,
a real big like minigun-esque rocket launcher, probably multiple different types of things.
Yeah, and then Lance has just a regular assault rifle type thing, a blaster thing. So yeah, like, you know, they're more long range than anything as far as the fight scenes go.
Keith can also generate a shield on his left arm.
That's true. Yeah, he has a shield and a sword. Yeah.
He's pretty neat. Swag. Yeah, I feel like Allura has a weapon.
I think she does too. I know she's skilled with weapons. That's another thing. I think, and she's a decent fighter. She's really good, and that was something I didn't expect from Princess. But I like that when they do that in stories where they're like, she comes from a royal family, and the royal family wanted her to take care of herself, so they taught her how to fight. I think that's really neat. I like that.
Yeah.
Much better than the royal family didn't teach her anything, and they locked her up in a tower or something. You know what I mean? The typical story. We've talked a little bit about we talked a little bit about the characters and how they grow, and how when they split up, you know, like you mentioned, their individual growth helps the team grow. I really like the camaraderie of the team. I like when they are working together. I think that it's a very genuine friendship, and that it's a lot like a lot of these things we've been seeing lately, like Guardians of the Galaxy and other things, where it's like they start off as people that really don't like each other that much, at least as far as like Keith goes and Lance goes, and you know, maybe even Shiro to an extent. Like people didn't necessarily know him or trust him, and
they start off feel divided too, or just like even if they don't like each other, they're not very good at making decisions as a team.
Yes,
but they definitely grow to be more cooperative, I feel.
Yeah, I think that's very neat. Actually, I really like. I like team based stories like that. I like ensemble casts that work together. I think that's one of the reasons I like shows like Firefly so much. I think that's one of the reasons I like The Avengers so much. I like when a bunch of different characters get together and do stuff. I think that's one of the reasons I like Power Rangers so much, honestly.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is there a team in that show?
Yeah, there's yeah, you know, there's the Power Rangers.
Man, there's just so much good about this show.
Is there any? Do you think there's anything bad about the show? You think there's any?
Absolutely not. According to Rotten Tomatoes, it's 100%, so it's fine.
Yeah, I thought so too. I think
the only thing I think is that occasionally
there's some dad humor.
Yeah,
or
occasionally
it's
a smidge campy, and that's really
campy was the word.
All it is for me. But other than that,
and again, like it's one of those things I especially for me, like I'm able to ignore it a little bit because I'm used to seeing things like that from kids shows I watched.
And other than small like nitpicky things about like, you know, like again calling them lions immediately. No, not even a little bit. Like no one anywhere was just like, hey, it kind of looks like a cat, just like a regular. This is like a house cat, just like 5 big house cats.
Right. Yeah.
Like, no one says that at all. I feel like a missed opportunity, David.
I don't know. They could all be female lions.
And then Well, I mean, yeah, they
Without
likely
the
are.
manes.
Or just young male lions.
Yeah.
But or cougars.
Or cougars. Or cheetahs.
Panthers. No, they ain't cheetahs. They'd be much more slender and pretty.
Mm-hmm.
You ever seen a cheetah, David? I was in San Diego.
Not in real life, no.
Real life, David. I was in San Diego in the San Diego Zoo, and they have a cool little program where they'll pair cheetahs when they're little cubs with dogs, like golden retrievers or other types of dogs, and that'll be like their life buddy to help, because cheetahs are really sort of scaredy, and so they won't.
They're like skittish.
Yeah, and I think they get anxious.
Oh,
so
okay.
when they have a buddy, it's a lot easier for them to live. I think especially in captivity, and so because of how chill the cheetahs are with their dog friends, one of the exhibits where the cheetahs are, like the fence between you and the cheetahs only goes up to like here-ish.
Oh wow.
And like
it's not very high.
So like there's a
He's
dog.
just talking about chest height.
Yeah, there's a dog goes up to your chest ish, and so you're not. And then there's like a bush, and then the railing, and then you're behind that. So it's like you're like 5 feet off from the actual enclosure.
Yeah.
But you're real close to this cheetah.
Yeah.
And the cheetah can just walk up and down, and the dog's out with it. And usually there's a handler out there with it if they're all out there at the same time. The cheetahs don't just live out there by themselves. But like I was like from me to you.
Yeah.
From a cheetah, and it was so cool. That thing is gorgeous. That cat is so pretty. So pretty. And slender and just sleeking around and just real pretty. Yeah. I didn't know if it was a cheetah. That's all I gotta say.
Okay, all right.
Right?
No,
all right.
that's fine.
It's probably it's a lion. It's
what
exactly
if it was
like
a
a lion.
saber-toothed tiger?
Ain't got no saber teeth, David.
No, I'm just messing.
Nah. And that black one's got freaking jets on its back. What cat? What lion you know's got wings?
Yeah.
Nope.
I like how big the black lion is.
Yeah, it is monstrous compared to the other ones. It's like, oh, and you get this one, and it's just huge. Like, just even like Hunk's
just
yellow lion is
them,
supposed to be the big one.
Yeah.
Like, black one's just twice its size.
Right.
Like, what is going on here? Goodness gracious.
Yep.
Oh.
But yeah, I definitely like it a lot. I think this show does a really good job. I thumbs it up on Netflix.
Oh, yeah. Thumb it all the way up.
Yeah.
It's real good. Watch it. Give it a thumbs up.
Season 3 comes out August 4th, right?
August 4th, bro.
It's coming
next Friday.
Next Friday. Wow.
I'm so excited.
Jeez,
I was so pumped when I saw that date. I was like, yes, this is what you do. Drop a trailer just like 2 weeks out.
Right.
That's great. Don't make me wait till October.
Yep.
Stranger Things.
Briefly, what do you think? What do you think about season 3? Like, what's from the trailer we've seen? So we know in season 2.
I'm so excited.
So we know in season 2.
Shiro is no. There's no way Shiro's gone permanently.
Shiro disappeared.
There is no way.
2, yeah.
There's no way he's gone permanently. Because I mean, even in
spoilers now. We're in the.
Oh yeah.
We're in the woods now.
So at the end of season 2, Zarkon was incredibly injured, and Shiro just disappears.
Yeah.
After a close encounter with him, a lot of season 2 was spent talking about Shiro's connection to the Black Lion versus Zarkon's connection to the Black Lion, and Zarkon's being stronger because he was a paladin for much longer, and such and such. And so it was a lot of Shiro overcoming that and defeating Zarkon. And I get the sense that he beat Zarkon. His connection to the Black Lion was better than Zarkon's, and that's great. And then but after that battle, the Black Lion was rendered kind of like paralyzed. So they get it back. They like tractor it back into the castle or wherever they are, and everybody runs up to the Black Lion and they open it up. The head opens up and Shiro's gone, and you're like, "Whoa!" And that just ends. Just roll credits.
Mm-hmm.
And this one they're like, well, we need to talk about getting a new person for the Black Lion. And then you see eventually in the trailer you see the Black Lion rear up. Like it turns on again, but you never see who gets into the Black Lion. I think Shiro will come back. I think we might actually see someone else in the Black Lion's chair. I think we might actually have a brief someone else. I hope it's Allura. I think that would be really cool. But I know Shiro will come back. There's no way he won't. Because I mean, like before the second season came out, the trailer in the second season had a bit in it where it was Shiro talking to Keith, and he was like, I I need to know that you'll be able to take this team, lead this team when I'm not here.
Yeah,
and that didn't come to fruition.
No.
So I don't think this will come to fruition.
Well, I mean, I think it is interesting though because apparently in the original series, Keith was the leader of the team.
Was.
There wasn't really a Shiro, right?
There was a Shiro. There was a guy who had Shiro in his name.
Yeah.
And so that's really more or less.
Was he the guy that died and then Allura became his paladin?
I have no idea.
Maybe. I know one of the paladins originally died and Princess Allura took the position of that paladin afterwards. So.
Which might be what they're doing here.
Could be, yeah. He had a bad case of stabbing, as they say.
Ah, yes. Just stabbing pain.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think that might be. I think she may show
I
up.
definitely think that.
I think she may lead. She may drive the Black Panther. Oh, Black Panther. The Black Lion for a bit. It's a panther, David. That's what it is.
A panther, yeah. It's a puma.
I think she may be that paladin for a little while. Mm-hmm. But I don't think we've seen the last of Shiro. Mm-hmm. He's far too cool.
Do you think Keith will take the Black Lion for a while?
I don't know. I don't think he'll stay as the Red Lion.
I think he'll stay as the Red Lion only because they made a lot of
only because he wears a lot of red. No, and it would just really not make any sense if he drove anything other than the Red Lion.
I think it has a lot more to do with his personality and how the Red Lion is apparently the only one with like a personality.
Yeah, the Red Lions. Well, they're all more or less with a personality. The Red Lion is less sort of. The Red Lion is less trusting.
Yes,
and it's a little more unstable.
Yes,
though it's faster and more agile, which is why Keith was sort of decided to be the Red Paladin because he's a better pilot, more or less.
Yeah.
And he himself is like that. He's the Prince Zuko of this show.
Yes. Yes, he is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I don't imagine he'll be gone very long. From what I have heard, I don't know much, but I have heard that they've cast somebody to play this new character who's supposedly Zarkon's son.
Oh, yeah. So that's the other thing. Since Zarkon's injured, at the end, Hagar, whatever her name is, she's like, all right, call Prince What's-His-Bucket, and it's Zarkon's son.
Yeah. So we'll have like a new big bad for a bit, I think. I think what's interesting, though, is I feel like because the show's only going to be about 7 episodes this season, and then we'll get more in 2 months, I think that what they'll probably do is this will probably be more of a transition season. We'll probably have some kind of something. The status quo will change or shift in some way this season, and then I think the next season will be more serious stuff.
I forgot to take that into account. Since it is a shorter season, we might not see Shiro at all. They might take this advantage to not have Shiro in it at all, or maybe not until the last episode.
Yeah, or like he may pop up and then
I bet you it'd be like, I'm gonna predict this.
Okay, predicting a thing
at the end of 7 that they'll be floating around. They'll have just maybe defeated someone or just accomplished something, and they'll get some blip on a map, and they'll be like, "What's that?" And it's like, "Oh, I think it might be Shiro." Like at the end of
something like that,
The Force Awakens, when they were like, "That's where Luke is."
Yeah,
probably what. That's probably what.
Okay, yeah, I could see that
will happen, and they'll be like, "Well, do we go find him? I mean, who's gonna tell him that his lion's not his?"
He has a robot arm. They can't track him from his robot arm.
That's what I'm saying. Like that's probably what it'll be.
Probably something.
But he probably was warped way far away.
Yeah.
Which is another thing that I really like about the show is its scope.
Oh yeah,
the Galra Empire is enormous because
galaxies
it's all throughout the universe. Yeah, so there's just no end to the places that they could go and they could take this. Really cool.
Do you think the show will go to 78 episodes?
I gosh darn hope so. I hope it goes more.
Yeah, me too.
The original show, one of the reviews or one of the shows I was watching had like, I think 100 some odd episodes.
Yeah.
Something that came down to like the equivalent of 11 seasons. What today's like Netflix series would be. So I hope we get at least that.
Yeah, no, I think that
because this show is worth it.
It's definitely. Good. I definitely think so. I think this show is worth people's time, and I think it's worth Netflix's money. I think everybody should get on it.
Yep.
Check it out, guys.
Same for Young Justice.
Ah, yes. Oh,
we should talk about that.
Yeah, at some point. They didn't put out a trailer, and we still don't have a release date of that, but they did put out some new concept art for what the team is going to look like in this new season.
I've not seen that.
It's another time skip, so there's been a couple of years, and so the characters have aged up a little bit. Static, it looks awesome.
Oh yeah,
so
I forgot that was even in. Oh,
I know.
I'm gonna go watch that.
Yeah, I have to rewatch all of that.
I'm gonna watch that tonight.
Yeah, I have to rewatch all of that.
That show is so good.
Yeah. No,
watch Young Justice, guys. We'll talk about that eventually.
Yeah, I'm kind of gonna rewatch all of Voltron soon too.
Man,
good times.
So good. Sure. Yes.
But yeah.
Do you have a favorite episode of Voltron, David?
A Favorite episode? I don't know. I really like episodes where Hunk grows. I like the one with
Sounds pretty biased to me, David.
Yeah, well, what's her name? What's her name with the that from the planet that has the stones? She's like a stonish person.
The living planet, yes. The big like whale thing.
Yeah, where they get the quintessence or whatever it is.
They get the little crystals from it, and and they
Yeah.
The Galra are like mining these crystals, killing this thing.
Yeah, and they've been kind of like bugging Hunk thing, saying she was like his girlfriend or whatever. But I do really think it was interesting that like he was kind of like stranded there for a while, wasn't he? Like he and Karan or something maybe.
I think something like that. And they had the opportunity to get out, and Karan was like, "We should just get out." And I think Hunk was the one that wanted to stay.
Stay and help them. Yeah. I thought that was very neat. I thought it
that's
showed a
pretty
lot
early
of
on
strength
too. I think that's
character.
episode 3.
Yeah,
somewhere around there because it's pretty early.
Yeah,
because that's when they have their first encounter with a really big monster that Hagar makes. That's like really,
with the really
long arms that can shoot beams from
the
like
laser
anywhere.
Yeah. That was in season 2, right?
That was in season 1.
Really?
Season 2, it pops back.
No, yes, that's right. It wakes up out of the crystal or whatever.
I think Allura
freezes or whatever.
Yeah, Allura is the one that like cinches it up in this big crystal thing, or maybe the entire race of those people do. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm not certain.
Show's good.
It's very good. Do you have your favorite episode? Do you have a favorite character? You said the Princess Allura. That's right.
Princess Allura. If not Princess Allura, then Shiro.
Yeah.
But there's an episode where each of them individually kind of goes through something.
Yeah.
And I think it's when we first sort of get a glimpse at Shiro's connection to Zarkon. Let me see. I'll see if I can find it on here. Yes. Okay, so it's episode 9. It is episode 9. It's called Crystal Venom. Yeah. So basically the castle starts doing these strange things, and everybody is affected in a different way, and the castle starts like attacking people. Lance, I think, is almost ejected out of an airlock.
Wow.
Keith is attacked by a rogue training droid.
Oh yeah.
Shiro monitors Sindak, so they've captured Sindak.
One of the Galra Empire, one of the generals, right, or one of the
one of his commander people. Begins interrogating him, but is mentally tormented by Sindak's voice, prompting him to eject Sindak into space. Yada yada yada. It's really interesting because you get to see individual people react to situations.
Yeah.
And sort of learn and grow. It's a really cool episode.
Yeah,
I feel
it's a solid one.
Really, really fun. That one's really
also
neat.
The finales are great.
The finales are
finales are amazing.
Freaking tastic, David. They're super cool. I also really like the Blade of Marmora episodes.
When Keith goes in the trials.
Yes, I like that one a lot.
That was a great episode.
That was really cool. But yeah,
there's some good ones.
Gosh, it's a good show.
I also really like what you mentioned before, the time loop at the beginning of season 2.
Yeah,
that's good too.
That first episode.
Yeah, super good.
Overall, fantastic show.
Yes.
If you have not seen it, please do. If you've seen it already, go watch it again. Give it all your thumbs up. Mm-hmm. Give it all your money if there's any.
If there's any money,
If
right?
there's any merch, buy the merch.
Yeah.
If you see art at conventions, buy it. Support those artists.
They have a comic book coming out that apparently like bridges the gap between seasons.
Oh
and
yeah,
stuff.
I've also heard there's a live action movie in the talks.
What?
I don't know how far along it is in planning.
Maybe.
But yeah. So
very cool.
Yeah, so that may happen.
Give it your money. I'm with that.
So pumped. So ready for more of this show.
Nice.
Alrighty.
So, do you want to go next, or do you want me to go next?
I'll go to give us a break between large robots. So I know what you're going to talk about.
Spoilers. They don't.
I want to talk about Castlevania right quick.
Oh yeah, let's talk about that.
So we've got
show
4 episodes on Netflix.
Oh, yeah.
You've seen it. I've seen it twice because I watched it and then I watched you watch it.
I watched you watch it.
It's great. I like it a lot. So
yeah, you can watch it in one sitting.
Right off the bat, complaints. Language. There's a lot of language in this.
Yep.
Probably too much.
Yeah,
There's a really extended, awkward scene where a guy talks about some dude having sex with his goat.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, with this
that scene dragged a little more than I wanted.
Way more than anyone anywhere wanted it to.
Yeah. That was not great.
So dumb.
Very gory. Not.
It's quite gory.
Not necessarily like great for me, but there was some moments.
It's graphic. If you don't like graphic gore, don't do this.
Yeah, don't do this.
Yeah, yeah. However, another disclaimer: I've never played any of these games.
Yeah, no, I haven't. Either.
I should know more about this, but I really don't.
I definitely have not.
So, but they've been around for a long time, and they've always been sort of these side-scrolly.
They're like a
platformer games.
Yeah, with like special boss battles and things. Yeah.
And they had this sort of vampire theme, this sort of Transylvania, as you can get from the name, Castlevania, theme to them. Mm-hmm. And almost a steampunk theme at some points.
Yeah. Lots of gears and...
Lots of gears, yeah. Lots of gears and machines. Dracula is a main bad guy. I think he's recurring. I don't know if
he's generally the bad guy in the games, yeah.
Yeah, and he's really cool. I really like... Again, I mentioned before, I really enjoy villains that you can understand. Mm-hmm. And I feel like they set up Dracula in a way that you can understand him pretty well.
Yeah, I like that. The story felt reminiscent to me a little bit of Dracula Untold.
Yes,
a little bit, and that you hear
a
all
movie
these
that we both like. That
and
apparently a lot of people did not like.
I thought that movie was fine.
I thought it was great.
That was great. But no, I like that they made Dracula like a little bit relatable in the sense that he's a guy who wanted to protect his wife, and then his wife died, and he basically had to become a monster.
So this lady comes to him in the hopes that, because she knows that he's more or less a scientist, right? He's got all these gears, he knows all this medicine, and he's been around for hundreds of years, so we assume. And she comes to him and she's like, "Hey, I'm trying to study science and be a doctor. Teach me stuff so I can heal people." And this is back in just Dark Ages.
Oh yeah, back in the day.
Yeah, the church just sort of controlled everything, and if you were scientific in any way, you were considered a witch, and you were burned, which is what happened to her.
Yeah,
and homeboy finds out about this while he's been away, and he comes home to find his house with this woman burned to the ground, because he has a house with her in the normal town outside of his castle.
Yeah,
finds out that they've killed his wife, and he's like, "Well, I'm going to kill all of y'all. I'm going to give you a year to clean up your mess, make peace with your God, and get out. Then I'll be back, and I'll kill you all if you haven't done that." And a year later, they're all like, "Man, didn't we do a great job killing that witch?
It's been a year, and nothing's happened.
It's all good.
Look how great we are."
And then he just rains demons from the sky and just starts killing people.
Just slaughters everybody.
Kills a ton of people. We come in
the most graphic and disgusting way possible. It's just awesome.
Yeah,
it's so very metal.
There is nobody safe in this. A lot of people die.
Oh gosh.
But you can understand his rage. You really can,
definitely,
because he was already not a fan of humans.
Yes.
And so he was like, "Why should I help you?" And then I guess he fell in love with her. Yada
yada. He had a dark past as Vlad the Impaler when the girl met him, and he became and later he married that woman, and so she basically taught him that humans could be good and decent, and even when she was being burned, she was trying to call out to him and let him know that, hey, look, you gotta forgive these people. They don't know,
don't hurt them,
they don't understand. And
he didn't hear the message though.
He was off doing his vampire thing, doing somewhere else.
Gosh.
And so instead he came and murdered everybody. It was awesome.
And then we've got Trevor Belmont, who I think is really cool. He's an interesting character.
Very cool. I love his design.
Yes, I like his design a lot too.
He's very built while also being very quick.
Interesting character. Yeah, he's very built. He's got a chip on his shoulder, kind of. His family used to be the monster hunters, the monster killers of the area.
Belmonts were a big family name.
The church, and I guess I feel in a display of power, was like, "Nah, this family's messing with all this bad stuff. They're bringing all this bad stuff to us."
Yeah, they blamed them for the monsters.
They took all their money,
fighting monsters.
Basically exiled them, and most of them were killed, I think, or exiled. He's basically the last of the Belmont family.
Yeah.
So he doesn't have a very good name amongst most of the townspeople. Most of the regular people, they still think that his family's kind of to blame for a lot of stuff, even though they're definitely not.
He's kind of become a drunk, and he's rather jaded now because of that.
Definitely. He doesn't really like helping anybody, but he occasionally will. He's got a heart of gold, David.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
He'll help anybody.
His
Although his catchphrase is, I don't care.
Yeah.
Which I love.
It's great. Well, so then one of the things I think was really interesting that I hadn't thought about until I was giving it some more thought, but his personality and the way he acts in this show reminded me a lot of Jessica Jones and Jessica Jones's show.
Okay.
And that, like, there's a lot of times in the show where things are happening around her and she's just like, I don't care. But it's like she still, like, definitely does care, but she doesn't like showing it.
He's a fun character, and he's so good at fighting.
Oh gosh, he's a boss. He's got that whip that, like, just comes out a mile. Yeah, it's very neat. I was expecting him to, like, take out some lance or something with it, because that's something I do remember from the game, is that, like, they're always, like, popping, you know, you always, like, getting candles with the whip so you can get, like, money and stuff.
So, one thing this show did... Alright, I'm going to try to remember this, and also do this thing that I'm looking up right here. Oh, gosh, where are you? Rick O'Connell. The main character from The Mummies, the Brendan Fraser.
Yeah, Brendan Fraser's character.
That is who Trevor Belmont reminds me of.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Brendan Fraser's character from The Mummy,
yes,
to me feels like a lot like
definitely.
Trevor Belmont.
No, I definitely feel that too.
He's just kind of, he's got a lot of pride. He's
seen a lot of stuff.
Seen tons of stuff. He certainly has a reason not to give a crap anymore.
Yeah.
The only reason he goes with the lady in the beginning of The Mummy is because she can save him because he's about to be killed.
Yeah.
And so he's like, yeah, sure, whatever, all right.
He was also, like, in prison, and she brought him out of prison and stuff like that.
He's got good
skills. Even he's just like, look, we don't want to do this. This is stupid. But he's just like,
precisely.
But he doesn't want these people to die, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I thought that was really, really cool.
Yeah, I get that.
That's what I kept thinking about when
because even Trevor Belmont, like in you know, he there's several times in the show where he's trying to convince these characters to, like, leave town or whatever, get out of the area where there's demons and stuff, and he's just like, look, if you guys would just not do any of this stuff, you guys would be out of harm's way. But they're like, no, we have to do this, it's the right thing to do. And he's just like, well, like, he doesn't ever say it, but he's like, I'm not going to watch you die. And so he sticks around and he helps them instead, which is very neat. I think that shows a very, very strong character in him.
Yeah, he's cool. And the other thing I was going to mention that I did remember, thank goodness, is that this show does something that I talked about in our adaptations episode, in that this is an adaptation that makes me, that I like, and that makes me want to go back to the source material in a good way.
Yes, definitely.
It makes me,
I feel that.
When I finished this, I was like, I want to go play a Castlevania game now. I've never had that feeling in my life.
Yes.
I've never thought, hey, let's go play Castlevania. Yeah. But now that I've watched this show, I want to do that. And I think that, to me, is a sign of a good adaptation.
Yes, I think so.
It's not, man, this was terrible, I wonder if the source material was this bad. It's, no, this is really cool.
Yeah.
And I'd like to just know a little bit more about it.
I also like that, like, we both... one other thing that I think that we mentioned in our adaptation video that I think they took out of this was that, like they heard us personally or something.
Oh yeah, they totally did.
Was that
they're one of our 2 listeners?
Right. Was that we as people who haven't played the games didn't have to have played the games to understand what was going on in the show.
Correct.
The show was presented in a way that newer audiences could understand it.
Yes.
And still appreciate it. And I think that's very, very cool. I liked that it's rather short for what it is. I've heard it being described
4 episodes.
I've heard it being described as, like, kind of a pilot for a show, like, as opposed to a full-on show.
Like, this is what this could be.
Yeah.
Like, all right, let's go.
Exactly, because in 4 episodes, it doesn't really, like, have a start, middle, and end. In fact, really, in the first 4 in the 4 episodes, the show really just kind of builds up to a beginning. Basically, like, the show just kind of starts, but it's not in an unsatisfying way, I guess. Like it's not like a oh man, like, we're missing episode 5 or something. Like, we're not, like, you know, like, the show, the first 4 episodes have a decent arc enough that you see what this could be, but it isn't.
And you see where it's going. This is this is a setup. This is a good.
It's definitely
an excellent world setup.
Yes.
To what's going to happen for the rest of this series, assuming that it becomes a series that it comes on, and I think it will. It's gotten really good reviews. I think it's gotten a really good reception in general.
Yeah,
I think it did well on, like, Rotten Tomatoes and IMDb and all that nonsense.
Yeah,
91% on Rotten Tomatoes, which is fine.
Nice.
It's good. I think it's done well, and I hope that means it will continue.
Yes.
There are a couple things that I really like about this show that I want to make sure I mention. One is the animation. So I've heard, I haven't really heard any reviews of this show except for one, and it was a podcast that I listened to fairly regularly, and they just tore this thing up, and they were just like, "Oh, it's so berber and it's terrible, animation's bad, and niggas blah blah blah," and I was like, "Well, you guys don't really do animation reviews very often, so that's fine. I'll let this slide." I was just like, I really like the animation. I think it was great, very smooth. They said it looked kind of cheap or lazy at some points, and I was like, I don't feel like that at all.
No, I think it did a great job.
It looks really good. It looks really well done, especially in the fights. The fights are really fluid, something that I really like. They obviously put a lot of frames in there, and it was really, really good. I just super enjoyed watching Trevor fight and watching him move. You could feel like he was very well trained. You could sense that in the animation.
Yeah.
You could see him move around. It was so cool, especially the final fight in episode 4 between him and the son of Dracula. Spoiler alert. Alucard. That fight is so cool.
Freaking amazing.
Oh,
that show was great.
So good. They throw in the little thing that from the games where Alucard kind of teleports.
Yes.
Interesting stuff. Yeah, they do fit in stuff from the games really well into this.
Yeah. The way he teleports, the way Dracula teleports. I also like we mentioned, like, there's like gears and steampunking and stuff like that. You see him like struggling with climbing up on a gear and stuff like that, which is apparently from the games.
Yeah.
He has the whip, which is a thing in the games. All kinds of neat things like that. It does apparently stick to the source material rather well for what it is, for what the brief time we're in it. But I think it's very neat. It's interesting you mentioned the animation. Like Voltron, is this an anime?
Heck yeah!
I think so too. I think it is too. Especially, and even with the fact,
just look at Trevor's hair.
Right,
like,
exactly. That's very anime hair.
It's funny. It's a Japanese concept.
Yeah, it's based on a
video game from Japan.
Yeah. But it was animated here, right, in America.
Yep.
I didn't realize that until I'd actually gotten like an episode or two in, that I was just like, this.
And again,
it feels very anime, but it definitely has
that
American
love.
Notes and stuff.
It was done by. I'm gonna make sure this is correct before I go farther. Let's see. I believe it was done by Powerhouse. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, put out by. Help from Animation Studios, Frederator Studios, and Powerhouse Animation Studios.
Frederator. Yeah. They're the guys that do like Bee and Puppy Cat and oh my gosh, Galaxy Warriors or Galaxy. What is it? What do they call themselves?
I don't know.
But that's another anime or not animation they do. Their little cartoon they do. They're similar to their style is similar to Nickelodeon and stuff. I think.
Yeah.
In fact, the guys that started Federation, a lot of them were, did Nickelodeon animations back in the Disney. So yeah.
Yeah, it's super, super cool. I love that companies here in the U.S. are getting their hands on this stuff and producing things of this level, this caliber, that look so cool, and that are from Japan and that are based off Japanese subjects. Powerhouse is really neat. They're not too far from us. They're in Texas, if I recall.
Yeah, I think so.
They have an Austin, so they're headquartered in Austin, Texas, which is really cool. That's something I like too. I like seeing places that aren't just in California, places that are around everywhere, or other parts of the U.S. contributing to the animation industry. I like that. I love how good the animation is, and I love that it was done here. That's really cool, and it means a lot to me. I just like seeing that. But it's a good show if you can handle. If you can handle
Helsing?
Gore, I guess Helsing, yeah. If you can handle gore and swearing, definitely check this show out. It's worth the look. It's really enjoyable, I feel. Especially if you like action and sci-fi and things. A couple other characters are... there's a speaker character. I don't remember her name. Oh, she's not there for a whole long time. In fact, when she says her name...
She's like a wizard, right?
Yeah, she can use fire and magic and stuff, which, like... I don't know. Raises the question, why wasn't she already doing some of that? But, nah.
Yeah.
Trevor brings knowledge to the people that they don't really have. which is good. Like you see him, like he at some point he's got a group of people together. They're fighting off demons that are coming to the city, and he's like, all right, look, I need all my pikes up front, swords behind them. I need you to form a position right here. Magic girl, I need you to make like an ice wall, and then we need a whole lot of salt, and we need some holy water. And he just teaches these people how to kill these demons, and I think it's really cool.
Yeah.
And that was interesting to me. That was really fun. I like it that he has this know-how. They can back up the cool character design that he has and all of his smack talk.
Yeah.
He's a cool character to me. Anyway, I think it's worth it.
Yeah.
Check it out.
Yeah.
Definitely. And yeah, that's my bit.
All right.
All right, Dave, we're going to talk about Power Rangers?
Yeah.
Oh,
so I knew we were going to talk about Voltron today, and the more I read about Voltron, the more I was like, look, I haven't talked about Power Rangers actually. Like, I've mentioned it probably once every episode. I feel like I have. Maybe I haven't. Well, one of y'all can figure that out.
Let us know. Right.
Tell
TNYK
start our Wikipedia page. Tell us how many times I mentioned Power
Those
Rangers.
Nerds You Know Pod at gmail.com.
But yeah, and so like the more I was researching Voltron, the more I was like, man, this reminds me of Power Rangers, and I really want to talk about Power Rangers at some point. I'm probably going to talk about Power Rangers a bunch, but like, you know, I'll dedicate a few topics to it. But today, there's two major things I wanted to get to, and that is why I like Power Rangers, like, and kind of the my, you know, backstory with Power Rangers, like, you know, how I got into it and things like that. And also, today I wanted to list my top 5 seasons.
Give them, David.
If you're to only watch, you know, some of Power Rangers or just like a season of Power Rangers, which shows to watch, and those kinds of things.
Top 5 countdown.
Yeah.
David McQueen exclusive.
Basically. Oh yeah, you heard it here. Not
once,
first, but best. But yeah, so just like start off, like I grew up with Power Rangers. It came out in '93. So I actually was born when the show first started, and I probably wasn't watching it at the age of 1. You know what I mean? But like, I did catch up with it later on. I think when I ended up starting the show was probably around the time of Turbo and Space, probably more so Space than Turbo. But I ended up going back, like the shows like had like, you know, reruns and stuff in between seasons and stuff, and I do remember watching as a kid some of the earlier shows, but not like, you know, I didn't have a solid grasp of the show overall, which looking back as an adult, like you really don't have to, because there's not really like an overarching story that happens a lot. There are a few like major plot points, there's a few like major episodes that stick out as far as the progression of the show, but mainly the show is rather episodic. It's a Freak of the Week style. There's a team of teenagers that morph into superheroes. They get these like spandex suits and they fight rubber monsters.
Yeah,
like, you know, it's just that, you know, and it's just very
like
cool.
You do.
The show's got very cool action. It's got a lot of explosions, some neat fights, and they all
I gotta say, as like a young,
very marketable weapons.
Yes.
Zords.
As a young boy,
yeah.
Watching this, like this show is like, this is the perfect thing for your imagination level.
Oh yeah.
As a young boy, and like, it's everything you want to be when you grow up in a couple of years and be a teenager.
Yes.
Fighting crime, fighting aliens, having this big giant robots.
Yes.
Knowing all these cool martial arts, and like that is, like, yes, I watched it as a kid. I don't watch it now.
Yeah.
But I can. Certainly, I had the toys.
Yeah.
I had the Zords that could morph together and make a big Zord.
Yep.
I was a Power Ranger probably every other Halloween for several years.
Me and my twin brother dressed as the red and blue Power Ranger of whatever season was out.
That's right.
Every year for years.
Yep. Had a Power Ranger themed birthday for probably several years running.
Oh wow, nice. Yeah, no, that's how
cake.
It was. No, I mean that was
all day.
Saban knows how to market to kids.
He crushed that.
He's like Michael Bay.
He spent like $5 on that show.
Yeah, right.
And he just made buckets of money.
No, he does a really good job.
Did you already explain what Power Rangers is?
No, I didn't actually get to it yet.
Okay.
So just like Voltron. Yes. This show is based off of a show
Castlevania.
This show is
off of a video game.
This show is based off of a Japanese show called Super Sentai, and Super Sentai has actually been around way longer than Power Rangers. Not just like originally longer. Like every season of Power Rangers has been adapted by a corresponding season of Super Sentai, even today. And the show Super Sentai is still going on, and there's still seasons ahead of us. They've been going on for quite a bit, and 30 or 40 years, I think.
Power Rangers themselves, like the Super Sentai itself, really is based off is not based. It is part of basically a subgenre of anime and like Japanese TV of like suited up, super powered teams.
Yeah.
So like other things that fit in are Voltron.
What do they call it? There's a term for it.
Gotcha Man.
Yeah.
I don't know what your term is you're looking for.
It's not Sentai, but there's a term that's like it's any kind of story where someone morphs into something. They
Guyver.
Kind of transform into this hero, basically. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I know it's on the tip of my tongue. It'll come to me at some point. But yeah. So there's a term for it, basically. But it's been around for a long time. So just to give some perspective a little bit, the season of Super Sentai that Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, the original season of Power Rangers was based off of, was like season 8 of Super Sentai.
Wow.
Like they've been around for a bit. They've been around since. So Power Rangers came out in the early 90s. Super Sentai came out in like the late 70s, early 80s. Like
and the way Power Rangers works is like Saban will. Like he'll license the ability to use Super Sentai here in America, and he makes it the Power Rangers, and he uses footage from Super Sentai.
Yes.
So they'll film footage when they're outside of their suits here for like the American group.
He'll hire American actors, or he hired American actors. Now the show's moved to New Zealand, and most of them are New Zealand actors. But yeah, back in the day, the first several seasons of Power Rangers, Saban filmed in Hollywood, and he'd get American actors to portray characters, and then when they morphed, when they went into their suits, they would cut to Super Sentai footage of the Rangers, or the Super Sentai Rangers, fighting against rubber monsters and stuff like that. And that's why I mentioned earlier, a lot of the villains in the show, a lot of the monsters they fought were just voice actors voicing monsters, because the monsters didn't really have mouths that moved much, or if they did, it moved a little bit, and so mainly it was just like this dinky robot running around fighting these guys in
dinky is an accurate description thereof.
Primary colored suits, so they would just voice over that and then add stuff. And same thing for when the Rangers were running around doing stuff, and like they'd voice over that as well. Like,
and that's like the genius of Saban in his show, and that like he knew he was only marketing to kids. He knew little boys were going to watch this, and little girls too, I'm sure. But he knew kids were going to watch this, and so he didn't need to throw a whole lot of money at it. It didn't need to be really well done. He just like half of this show is already shot.
Yeah.
When he releases it, when he gets it,
half the show was done already.
He just gets their throwaway, like costumes and a lot of the footage of the robots and the fights when everybody's morphed, and it's just it's mind-boggling to me. Like how much money he must have made. Like because it's got to be like the predecessor to reality television, because I don't think that had been come around just yet. But that's what it would be like.
Early 90s,
not quite yet. Minimal budget. Small amounts or small cost show.
Yes.
That has this potential to just bring in so much revenue because so many people watch it.
Well, a lot of it was because of the show. A lot of it was because of the toys. A lot of it was the show, but most of the money comes from toys. Saban, the show. And Super Sentai does this as well. Like I think that's probably part of it was that Saban probably understood that was the big draw to Super Sentai, was that like the point of the show was to sell toys. It was a kids show and stuff like that. Although in Japan, it's a little bit. It's not quite seen specifically. It's not quite directly just for kids. Like a lot of adults actually watch Super Sentai. Yeah. Like a lot of adults watch Power Rangers, but like the show is kind of marketed to a kind of like, it's better for all audiences, basically. Like this is the kind of thing that anybody in Japan would watch.
I think that's a disconnect that we often get with shows that we adapt, or Japanese shows that we adapt to American audiences, especially in the anime realm, and early on in the 90s and early 2000s, and that like
it's definitely a culture difference, for sure.
And just that like things marketed out in Japan might be for older audiences, or for teens, or for adults, or for things that aren't just shot at people under the age of 10. But they're from larger audiences than that. But over here, when a lot of big companies would license things, like One Piece when it was
Yeah.
first brought over, or other anime like that, Sailor Moon, different things of that nature.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the Western understanding, I think, back then was still, oh, cartoons are for children, unless it's The Simpsons or Family Guy. And
Yeah.
so they see this thing that is to them a cartoon. We're like, oh, this must be for kids, and we'll just market it to kids, and
Yeah.
we'll cut out all of this stuff that's more adult. And I think that happens a lot in Super Sentai, or a lot with Power Rangers versus Super Sentai, and definitely a lot in anime that was put on television in the early 2000s and late 90s, just on like the WB or Cartoon Network or anything of that nature.
Yeah. So, yeah, it's
strange, and it'll happen nowadays too with some things.
Yeah.
I voiced this already, but Yu-Gi-Oh! Zexal
for kids, man.
just
For
bothers
kids
the
is
crap
really
out of
bad
me.
about that.
That dub
For
is
kids
so bad.
bought a lot of
The
anime.
dub is bad. The
brought it over
editing is
here.
bad. The music is bad. Everything about the Japanese show is superior in
Yeah.
every form, and I'm just like, why? Just
Yeah, no, I get that.
give me the sub.
Yeah, and I mean that's where a lot of the problems that come with Power Rangers stem from. A lot of people like Saban. I think one of the things I know he tried to do was he wants the show to be for kids, and so I think he tends to like make sure the show is as clean as it can be.
Yes.
I think, and for me that's a good thing. For me, I think that's a really good trait. I like just like Voltron. I felt like one of the reasons I think I still watch the show is I find the show rather safe.
Yeah.
Especially in this day and age where there's plenty of trash. There's a lot of bad stuff out there, and I mean the show has its moments, like Divatox in Power Rangers Turbo was a little scantily clad. There's rumors that Saban
Google image, please.
Google there's a rumor that Saban hired a porn actress to play her, but that's not confirmed or denied.
That means it's probably definitely true.
I mean,
If you found it on the internet
to save money, you know what I mean? Like, I'm sure he found it wherever he had to.
Save money.
Yeah, but no, it's like there's some moments, but like the show I think is rather safe, and I think it's really neat for kids. I definitely will have my kids watching the show for as long as they like it. If they don't like it, I'm not going to force them or anything. But yeah, I like one of the big things I think. So definitely for me, like I mentioned, for my past, I grew up with the show. I watched it all the way up until Time Force, which was in 2001. And Time Force was about where I stopped as a kid. At that point, I was probably 8 or 9. And Time Force, there's a villain in that. The main villain in that, Rancic. He's this criminal from the future who comes into the past around modern day. I say modern day. It was like the 90s or the early 2000s. But he comes into our time basically, and the villain had this like special power in that he had a sword he always carried with him, but he'd always like pull it out of his body. Basically, he'd always like pull it out of his like back or his leg or his arm or something like that. He always like just pull it out, and the animation looking back is awful. It's definitely a terribly done special effect. It's very 90s, very early 2000s. Special effect, but as a kid it terrified me. It horrified me to see this like grizzly looking bearded dude pulling swords out of his body. I thought that was the scariest thing, and the show actually did give me nightmares as a kid, and which was apparently like a good I kind of like pat myself on the back in that like apparently like that was that being the moment I left, because a lot of kids apparently left with season 2 of Power Rangers with Mighty Morphin with Lord Zed. Apparently that show got lots of letters and people parents writing in about their kids having nightmares and not liking the show because how scary Zed was, and that's why in season 3 he marries Rita Repulsa to kind of make him seem more human a little bit, seem more goofy, and he kind of starts to become a little sillier after that. But no, like Time Force scared me. And then I stopped watching it for a while. And then when even then, like after I left the show, Disney bought the show from Saban, or Saban sold it to Disney. I don't know which one. And I remember being a kid and being like kind of like scoffing at the Disney show and be like, oh man, how could they dare be as good. There was no way they'd be as good as Saban. You know, like and like I remember being like, one of my big things was that one of their first seasons,
which is an interesting take now, given all the things that Disney puts out. That's so much better than previous.
Oh yeah, and it's really nuts. One of the things was like, as a kid, I was like, one of the first seasons Disney did was Ninja Steel, and I remember being like making fun of Ninja Steel because they only, or not Ninja Steel, Ninja Storm. Thank you.
Yep.
Ninja Steel's the current season. Sorry, Ninja Steel's the current season of Power Rangers. Ninja Storm was the first season Disney did, but Ninja Storm, the Blue Ranger was a girl and the Yellow Ranger was a guy, and also they only had 3 Rangers at the start of the season. And I was just like, they're changing everything. This is so stupid. This is the worst show ever. Blah, 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 blah.
Absolutely the worst.
And I was just so like, I was just not in the right. I was just did not like it. I was not having any of that. And so I was like, I felt justified, I guess, in my decision to stop watching the show. Growing out of it. And then I got into high school. And I actually met people that also enjoyed Power Rangers. And I was just like, oh, this is great. And we had something to talk about. And I started, like, when I realized that there was, like, more to Power Rangers than just, like, what I had seen as a kid. Like, there was kind of an overarching story a little bit. I started to, like, get more curious about it. And I started to go back and watch some of it. And then Netflix got a hold of it and got all of it, basically. And after I got out of high school, I watched all of it. Like, I watched all of Power Rangers. I say I watch all of it. I haven't finished Mystic Force. And I haven't finished Wild Force. But basically, other than that, I've seen all of the shows, and so up to now, I've been catch up, and I started watching the new when Saban got the show back. So, actually, reverse that a little bit. When I went back and started watching some of the shows, especially the Disney shows, I was surprised at how good the Disney shows were. The Disney shows were actually really good. They were actually, some of them were better than Saban stuff. A lot of people to this day that I meet that I say they're fans of Power Rangers tend to be like, oh man, Mighty Morphin was like the best season because it was the first one. And I was like, I don't know, if you've gone back and seen the first season of Power Rangers, it's awful.
It's probably bad, yeah.
It's god awful. It's so bad. And I give him props. Like, I have respect for him. And, like, you know, they were the first season. I like all the actors and actresses that were in that show. I love that most of them grew up and, you know, had careers besides Power Rangers, because I really thoroughly enjoy when an actor that played a character in Power Rangers grows up to, like, actually do other things. Yeah. Because so many of them just kind of fall into the nowhere. Like, they just fall into the...
Or murder people.
Yeah. Or murder people. That happened. Yeah, I mean, all kinds of different things can happen. But yeah, so it's really neat to see them. It's like one of the reasons I like the show iZombie is the main character in that used to be an RPM Ranger.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
I forgot about that.
And so I'm really happy with that. Amy Jo Johnson, the original Pink Ranger who played Kimberly, she's in a Canadian action show called Flashback or Flash.
I don't know.
Flashpoint.
I think we can all agree the best thing to come out of Power Rangers was Johnny Young Bosch.
Ah, yes, Johnny Young Bosch.
Beyond belief.
I mean,
he's so cool.
I know, I love him too.
He's a good voice, so he's a voice actor.
A lot of people would argue Jason David Frank, but he's
a voice actor.
I definitely like Johnny Young Bosch more.
If you've watched an anime, you've probably heard his voice.
Yeah, he's played.
He's done a lot. Hasn't he been in video games too?
He's been in everything. He's been all over the place. If you've seen an anime that's at all popular, he's probably voiced at least one character.
He's the voice of Ichigo, I think, is a real
Ichigo from Bleach.
Big
he's
thing.
Lelouch from Code Geass. He's Vash Stampede from Dragon. That was his first anime role.
Yeah.
He got hired on that job because he did a martial arts movie that was like kind of an indie film or whatever. And while they were in post-production in the show, something happened and all of the audio was just lost. Like, they just couldn't, like, it was just unusable basically for the movie. And so what they did was all the cast had to be called back in and they had to redub their parts in the movie. Yeah. They had to revoice their roles. And he was told by the guy who is the director of that he had a really good hero voice, and he hooked him up with guys doing animation dubbing, and he got the job as Vash Stampede from Trigun because of how good his hero voice was.
Cool story, man.
Yeah, it's great.
It's super cool, and he has a band.
Yeah,
plays in a band called Eye Shine.
Yeah, he's great.
I have their little I don't know what you call them, the little rubber
wristbands
that you can wear that says Eye Shine. People always ask me about what's Eye Shine. I'm like, well, it's this really cool band with this Power Ranger in it.
Yeah, right.
It's really cool. We've seen them live. They're super fun.
But yeah, no, it was very cool. But yeah, so like I really like the show a lot. Like, and a lot of people are like, "Oh, you just like the show because you liked it as a kid," and that's definitely part of it. Nostalgia goggles are definitely strong with me.
I don't feel like there's some. I don't feel like it's inherently wrong to like a show because there's someone in it that you like.
For sure, no, I don't think so either. I like one of the things I think that sticks out to me with the show is I like that the heroes generally they're people that they were just nobodies that were blessed with this power to become more. Basically, they became Power Rangers or became heroes and superheroes in their local towns. Basically, I like that the characters are generally rather charming and relatable. And I mentioned before that it's like I like that it's rather clean and family friendly. I also like that like the show doesn't do it a lot because it's very episodic in nature. But generally, the shows I tend to like, the seasons I tend to like, the characters tend to grow. The characters tend to like learn things about themselves. And again, it fits a little bit with the Voltron in that they generally start off as these archetype characters, like, oh, this one's the cool one, and this one's the nerdy one, and this one's whatever.
Right.
And they start to, but then like as the show progresses,
this
they
one
start
wears
to,
blue, this one wears black, this one wears yellow.
Right. They start to step out of their comfort zones, I guess, and they start learning new things and becoming different, and they start expanding their characters a little bit, and I think that's very neat. And it's interesting because the show is very hit or miss with some of their content, I think.
You don't say?
In that, like, the show is very campy, and a lot of people don't like the camp.
Yeah.
They really don't. I have
no camp for me,
I maybe attribute it to Power Rangers, but, like...
However, David watches any and all campy things.
I don't mind camp. I don't mind it. I feel very, like, it's like dad jokes. Like, I really like dad jokes. I don't know what it is. I like that humor. I like that it reminds me of a simpler time. You know what I mean? Like I like that cringiness a little bit sometimes. But yeah, and so there's also and like I'm able to
school specials.
I'm also able to put it off a little bit, like when they have moments in those shows where I'm like, oh, they did this thing, and I roll my eyes a little bit. I'm like, I can always go back to like, oh, it's a kid's show. But I hate that excuse because the shows have also done some really neat, interesting, and sometimes even dark things. And
like
it's still
what,
a kid's show.
Do tell.
Like in Time Force, which, by the way, now that I've gone back and seen it as an adult, is actually one of the better shows. It's really decent.
In your top 5?
It's actually in my top 5.
Oh.
Yeah, so we'll get to that. Spoilers. The show, the first episode of Time Force, Rancic kills the Red Ranger of the Power Rangers.
Whoa, David.
Murders him.
Destroys.
Oh, yeah. Well, he destroys him. Okay, so the show, they never say kill or murder. They always say destroy. It's never kill.
No kill, no guns, just blasters.
Mm-hmm.
That's really interesting.
Just sparks and...
Yeah. No, what's the word? Interesting censorship.
Censorship, yeah, definitely. So they destroy the Red Ranger, and then he jumps back in. The bad guy jumps back in time, and the 4 remaining Rangers have to go back in time. And at the same time, the Pink Ranger she was like the second in command, which is generally not the case in the Rangers, I guess. Like generally, there's like the Blue Rangers, like kind of the second in command. The girl was kind of like the leader of the group after the Red Ranger stepped down. But also, she and the Red Ranger were going to be married. They were fiancés. They were engaged and everything. And she loved him, and she watched him die, basically. And then they go back in time.
She was programmed with the most tragic backstory of us all.
Oh, yes, she was. And they go back in time to stop Rancic, and then when they try to morph, they realize that they can't... The morphing grid won't allow them to morph without a 5th Ranger. And so they had to find somebody who fit... the genetic code, I guess, of the Red Ranger that was originally assigned. And so basically they find a guy who's basically like his ancestor, because it's in the past. So they find like his like great-great-grandfather or something like that. And the guy looks just like him. I'm pretty sure it's the same actor. They just like change his hair up a little bit. And it's interesting.
Sounds cheap.
It's an interesting yeah, right? It's an interesting struggle because the Pink Ranger loved this man that she watched die, and now she has to team up with this man she doesn't know. She has like he's got no training. He wasn't part of the original Time Force team. He wasn't he's not a police officer or anything like that. He's just some nut, some guy who's rather rich, comes from a rich family or whatever, and he just has no idea about time travel or fighting or anything like that. And so she has to take charge of the team. Meanwhile, she needs him. and at the same time she struggles with the fact that he looks so much like her beloved, and I'm just like, that's one episode of this show.
Yeah,
like that's so cool. Like I don't know, it's very
that does
neat.
sound pretty cool, David.
And then yeah, I mean, like there's some interesting things that they do with these characters.
Yeah,
I think
from what I gather from the little that I've seen and from what I've heard you talk about, it's just that, like, there are these tiny little nuggets of really good things and really interesting and intricate or dark stories that are peppered throughout this very childish or campy thing. And so, like, some people, that's just, the campiness is too much and it turns them off. But that, like, if you can sit through some of that difficult stuff that's difficult to watch, you can really find some good gems, some good stuff.
Yeah, there's some decent stuff in there.
And there are certainly some seasons that are better than others.
Yeah.
Or more well written.
Yeah, and I think part of it, I think when it comes to, so now to start stepping towards my top 5, what I think kind of differentiates, you know, like the seasons, I think, in my opinion, is definitely like how relatable some of the characters are in the show, because the show, I think, is rather driven by the characters themselves. And so, like, for instance, I did not like not the current, but one of the more recent seasons, Super Megaforce and Megaforce before it, Power Rangers Megaforce and Power Rangers Super Megaforce, because A, those are awful names for the show to begin with. B, all the characters are just like these like goofy teenagers who always want to get froyo, and they're just really like clean and uppity and not very, like, I don't know, they're just, I don't know, they look like the projections of what adults back in the 90s thought teenagers were going to be. Yeah. I don't know, like, it's just very odd and it doesn't feel very real, and I don't know, not like the show does feel real generally, but like, you know, there was like nothing to the characters. The Red Ranger was like, he didn't feel like a leader, even though he was put in the position of a leader. He didn't seem like to have any kind of experience or even grow into it. He just kind of like, he'd give stern looks, and like that was about it. That was about that was about as deep as the character went. And then, like, you know, the nerdy character was always just the nerdy character. And even as the show progressed, they're like, oh man, he's not really that nerdy. He got tough. And I'm just like, no, he's still nerdy. He just, now he works out. But he didn't look, you know, unfit before.
Yeah.
He just acted unfit because, you know, I know it was just too much. Like, the show was just very weird. And so I like the story. I like the shows that had decent stories, and I like the shows that you know, had growth in them. And so for my top 5, and that's one of the reasons I didn't pick Mighty Morphin in any of my series, but not because of the growth, mainly because it's not, you know, as well designed. The show kind of drags and it doesn't have a lot going on for it, but also because, like, the only reason Mighty Morphin doesn't show up in this list is because there's just so much better now. Like, this show has like 24, 25 seasons now, and Mighty Morphin just didn't make my top 5. Like, it's just not that great. It's fine. It's better than Super Megaforce. It's better than some of the trash that Power Rangers has put out. But I mean, they can't all be winners. You know what I mean? Like, so I guess that's just how it is. So I'm gonna start with 5 and move up to my way up to 1.
No, you give us some suspense, David.
Suspense. So my number 5 actually just barely beating out Turbo.
Numero 5.
Just barely beating out Turbo for 5 was Dino Charge, and its follow up
Super with those dinos that
the most recent show before Ninja Steel.
Gotcha.
I really liked it. I felt it was a very cool callback to the original show. I know they tried to call back to the original show with Samurai, and they tried very hard to call back to the original series with Megaforce, and I did not like that at all. But
in either of them, or just in Megaforce?
Just in Megaforce mainly. People didn't like Samurai. A lot of people did not like Samurai. I thoroughly enjoyed Samurai, but I also have a thing for Samurai. So
that's true.
I kind of like let that slide.
You're a little biased,
but also
weeb.
In Samurai they brought back Bulk and Skull, which I thought was neat. Like, that was kind of a decent callback. In Megaforce they just kind of like, they're like, oh, we got the legendary Rangers, and they just kind of just it just felt very, I don't know. The show felt very like, it's like selling point, like, you know what I mean, like the show, like the show has plenty of moments where they're like, oh yeah, you know, you collect all 5, like, you know, it just feels very like marketable, like it feels very, the show in of itself and of its toys. But
so
like,
it feels like an ad for its
but
toys.
it felt like Megaforce was really just that. Like Megaforce felt like lots of buzzwords, and it just felt like it was trying to hit all the right notes. But it was just like kind
Blaster, more phenomenal.
Yeah, it was just kind of and I was just like, you're doing.
I
don't know.
That word.
Also, that show tended to overpromise and underdeliver. That was the big thing too. Was they're like, this is going to be great. We're going to go back and we're going to relive all these like reasons and all these Rangers from the past and stuff like that. And they really didn't do any of that much at all. It was just very dissatisfying. Anyway, back to Dino Charge. Dino Charge, the characters. So one of the things I do like about Power Rangers is I love morphing sequences and I love team ups. I love lots of Rangers. I love a bunch of Rangers. I love like more than 5.
An army of them.
I like a lot of Rangers. Dino Charge had 10 Rangers.
Wow, that's a good amount.
And a lot of Rangers. And not only that, but the Rangers, like, they do a lot to kind of explain a lot of things that aren't really explained in the previous seasons of Power Rangers, like the fact that the Rangers in Dino Charge, once they've bonded to an Energem, don't age. Like they stay young basically as long as they continue to be Power Rangers basically, which I thought was a really neat aspect of it, because then they had characters like the Blue Ranger was a caveman from the past who got bonded to an Energem
as opposed to a caveman from the future.
Yeah, right. Yeah, exactly. None of those future cavemen.
Gotcha.
And I thought it was neat that the characters. One of the things I think is really interesting about like good character design, I think, at least basic good character design. You know what I mean? Is if the character has aspirations or dreams, and if they have fears. And there was all of the characters felt like they did. All the characters had that going for them.
They were all Naruto?
No. No, they all had like different things.
Meaning that they had something that they were aspiring to.
Yes.
Naruto is a character who wants to be something.
They all had things they wanted to do. Yeah. The Red Ranger was originally
they're not Ichigo.
The Red Ranger was originally motivated by finding his father, who had disappeared when he was young.
Okay.
The Blue Ranger was trying to find a way. He didn't have actually much of a dream in the sense that like he wanted to just help others, but he had fears. Because of his past, he feared like some of the wild animals that he faced. He also feared being frozen, because that was another thing. He had been frozen for thousands of years. They had characters. They had the cool one that was like all about the kind of the ladies' man and stuff like that. But he wanted to grow up and be somebody. The Pink Ranger wanted to be a popular singer, or an artist. And her father wanted her to go to business, and all these different kinds of things. They had a character who was like a prince of a kingdom, and he wanted to at first he was just a stuck-up rich kid who didn't like anything. But then when he ran into the Power Rangers and he saw the sacrifice they had put for him, and how cool that the things they were doing to help others, and he saw the good that they did, he wanted a part of that. And at first he wanted it for selfish reasons. He wanted to be a ranger because he wanted to be cool and he wanted to be awesome and stuff like that. But it wasn't until he actually put his life on the line to save somebody that the Energem bonded to him, and he realized that the responsibility that comes with that kind of power. And I thought that was really neat. That's something that's almost never touched on in Power Rangers, that these characters are young people. In this case, they were varying ages. There was a couple adults that were on the team and stuff like that. But they understood that hey, these are aliens. They're gonna come here and take over this world if we don't stop them. And we could actually die trying to fight them. And I thought that was very neat.
Can actually be destroyed.
Oh, yes, be destroyed. Yes. Oh, yes.
So,
question on the tip of your tongue this whole time.
Not that we ever go on tangents.
Yeah, no, not at all.
You said you liked shows with a lot of Rangers in it, so it made me think of... Do you know anything about that movie that Johnny's in with a whole bunch of previous Rangers?
Oh, yeah.
What was that thing called? They were trying to fund it, right?
I don't remember what it's
Kickstarter.
Called. Yeah, it had a GoFund, and it had a Go Indiegogo or something like that. Yeah, there's some sort of fan film that the past Rangers are making. It's going to be kind of a spy film where a bunch of them are playing bad guys, a bunch of them are playing good guys, but they're working for different agencies or organizations, and it's going to be just an action movie where they're just shooting each other up and stuff.
It seems comparable to Mr. and Mrs. Smith.
Yeah.
That they're both competing mercenary groups.
Yeah,
almost.
Yeah. Yeah. So I that actually looks kind of neat, and I'm kind of excited about that. I like when they do fan things.
I
like
hope
that.
it's still happening or has happened because I would like to watch it.
Yeah, no, I would totally would all about that.
I don't know. I don't remember what it was called.
Henshin, a Henshin hero, a character who gains superpowers by transforming. Henshin, that's what it is. So that's the word I was looking for earlier. Power Rangers and Beetleborgs, Big Bag Beetleborgs, and even Magical Girls are considered Henshin style series where someone transforms and their transformation gives them powers. So that's really cool. So anyway, Dino Charge, very cool. Also, they had dinosaurs in it. They had actual dinosaurs, like not just the T-Rex and not just the Triceratops. They had like the Parasaurolophus. They had like
that one
raptors. They had
Parasaurolophus.
All kinds of things. They did have the pterodactyl, which a lot of people are like, oh, it's not a dinosaur. I'm like, it's close enough. Like nobody's really gonna.
Jurassic Park. Of course, it's a dinosaur.
Nobody's gonna fight you on a pterodactyl being a dinosaur. All right, it's fine. But most of them were actual dinosaurs. It was really neat. I thought that was kind of cool. Following up closely behind it, number 4 is Jungle Fury. Jungle Fury, just like Dino Charge, had a crap ton of Rangers, like a lot of Rangers. The show just kept adding Rangers. I think by the end of the show, they had 10 Rangers, and then they had 10 Masters, who, in a swoop of very anime, very Japanese explosion, morphed into anthropomorphic animals, as opposed to, like, Power Rangers. Like, as if the Rangers, like one of the Rangers, like all the Masters, these older people that were training the Rangers, and like, because Jungle Fury had more of a kung fu-esque thing, like the kids were learning kung fu from these older teachers and stuff. The Masters, they would like, and then one of the final battles, they like morphed into animals, and one of the Masters was like a cat. It was like a lucky cat.
Yeah, it was.
It was very
Neko,
very Japanese. It's very over the top. If you ever find it on YouTube, it's worth a watch. But the show itself was rather neat. The characters actually, like, especially early on, you see that like they're learning kung fu and they're learning martial arts and stuff like that. And they do a lot of out of costume fighting, which is really neat. Something that one of the things I also like about Power Rangers is when they do demorphed fighting, where they're not in the suits fighting, because some of those scenes, all that stuff's original footage, and I think that's really neat when they do that kind of stuff. They did a lot of really like wire fu type stuff, morphed and unmorphed, which was neat. The fight scenes were amazing. I really liked their first teacher, who later on becomes the Wolf Ranger. I think he was really great. I think RJ, I think was his name. He was really cool. The Wolf Ranger, he was purple, but they never called him the Purple Ranger because they can't have a Purple Ranger in the show. I don't know why. It just never seemed to happen. Although Dino Charge had a Purple Ranger, I think. I think she went by the Purple Ranger. Maybe she didn't. I don't know. But yeah, no, I really like that show a lot. I think also think that was really neat because it had a really cool energy, and I also think the characters grew as well a little bit, not just in their martial arts training, but it's kind of like their understanding of why they do what they do. Even the villains morph a little bit, and they turn to, you find out that their backstory is the more relatable than you'd think. Like the main villain is a guy who was corrupted by an evil Dai Li spirit or something like that, and he was he was a student who wanted power, basically, who turned to this dark side basically to gain it, and it was very interesting. And his what is it called, heel turn face or whatever, or I guess face turn, I don't know, he turns to good guy towards the end of the show, spoilers, but it's really neat, and it's really cool how they come back to that. Good show. I like that one a lot. Number 3 is Time Force, I mentioned earlier.
Yes.
Has a very dark start. It has a lot of really cool growth. The characters have to work together with this stranger they don't know anything about, and he has to learn about this future technology and aliens and all these different things he's encountering with them. And it's an interesting journey with the characters. They're all adults, which is neat, as opposed to being children or teenagers. And so like they end up having to get like jobs and do work.
Oh God! Heaven forbid, David.
Which is very interesting. It's very neat, especially because the main character, like I mentioned, his family's rich, but he doesn't want to deal with his father. He doesn't he doesn't have a good relationship with his father. He wants to separate himself from him, and so he doesn't want to take his dad's money. And the people from the future,
I'm an adult,
are living in the past now, and so they don't have marketable skills, like, or at least they don't know what a marketable skill is. You know what I mean? Like, and so it's neat to see them like kind of learn about this new place they're on.
You kidding me? Watch how long I can spin this fidgeter. If that's not marketable, I don't know what is.
Right? Yeah. So, number 2.
Oh, número dos.
Nah, numero dos. We got Space. Power Rangers in Space.
Espacio.
Which is the 6th season of Power Rangers. It is the finale to the what is called the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers saga. Because the story from Mighty Morphin Power Rangers up through Zeo, Turbo, and Space is... And
is this the one where Zordon cleanses the world, cleanses the universe of evil?
Yes, at the end.
Like you do?
He does at the end. He cleanses at least the major galaxy, at least the Milky Way of evil by his death, which is very symbolic and stuff. It's very
Makes
neat.
you wonder why I didn't do it sooner.
Well,
Selfish prick.
He would have had to die. So.
Gosh.
Yeah, but no, it was interesting. It's a very neat conclusion. So the characters from Mighty Morphin 2 Space are mainly the same main characters, I think, that are kind of shuffled around as the series go on. Different characters leave and come, and new ones show up and stuff. One of the things I really liked about Turbo, I mentioned earlier, was that actual child was one of the Rangers. And when I watched that show, I was a kid, and I was like, I could be a Power Ranger. Even though I'm like 9, I could be a Power Ranger. That
Mom, buy me all these toys!
Also, I really love that movie, the Turbo movie. People hate the Turbo movie.
Never seen it.
People hate it. People love the Mighty Morphin movie, which I actually don't like that much.
Love is a strong word.
I think the CGI Megazord fight at that movie was
awful. I saw footage of that recently. It is bad.
It is awful. Woo! It is terrible. It is so bad. And people love that movie. People love Ivan Ooze, the villain in that. I don't like it. I don't care for it. I don't want any of it in my life. It's fine. It's Power Rangers, whatever. I'll watch it.
Apocalypse? Is that what that was?
Apocalypse? Yeah, that's right.
Yep.
Basically.
X-Men.
But, so that... yeah. Basically, Apocalypse. But, Turbo, I thought, fit better a little bit as far as its movie, because all of the movie was original footage, and they use all of the props and costumes and stuff that they would normally use in the show. They just had like a bigger budget, and so for me, I felt it was really neat because it transitioned perfectly into the show, as the first movie was supposed to do. But it did it in a less jarring way because they were using all of the same Zords, all of the same costumes, all the same props that they were going to use in the show. So that when you watch the movie and then you watch the show, it feels like nothing has changed. Like it just blends perfectly into it. I think that's great, and I really like the movie a lot. Johnny Bosch is in it. He's great. Johnny Bosch is in the first one too, but you know, all these great things. Anyway, off Turbo. Space is the finale. So all the villains they face up to this point are like kind of teaming up and working together. That's towards the end though. But the main story is that Zordon has been kidnapped by Astronema and her people. More specifically, they're working for Dark Spectre. And Dark Spectre is a villain that they've been kind of teased.
The James Bond villain?
He's a villain that's been kind of teased for several seasons, basically. And in fact, he's the same character or same costume as the villain in the Turbo movie. But in that, he's a different character. He's not Dark Spectre in that. But it's the same costume, and they kind of joke about it. They're like, "Oh yeah, you look like the guy I used to know back in this one time," but they don't ever mention it, like in real sense. But it's very neat, and the Rangers are very cool. I really like Andros, the leader, the Red Ranger. He's super good. He's got a lot of training because up until this point, every Ranger has been a teenager or a child or a nobody. Basically, they've been like just nobodies that have been picked up, and basically they've been like made pure of heart or whatever the case would be. Some calling has pulled them to this, and they've been picked out of it. And then Andros shows up in the picture, and he's basically been training his whole life for this. Basically, he's been a ranger for a long time. You know,
So all the previous Rangers have been Frodo,
right? Yeah,
but now we're at Aragorn.
Yeah. Andros in the first episode of Space sneaks into a dinner party of all of the previous big bads, all the villains from the previous seasons of Power Rangers.
That sounds like dope.
It's awesome. He's like in a robe, and under the robe he's actually fully morphed in this vibrant red Power Ranger suit, but they can't see because the robe's covering him. But they have this moment where they toast to Dark Spectre, and he doesn't toast. He doesn't drink the wine, basically. And they're like, "Hey, this guy didn't toast. Something's up." And
hey,
so
who is you? And then he just
turn on him.
Throws the robe off.
He throws the robe off
and destroys everyone.
He throws the robe off. He pulls out his I know this. His saber, his spiral saber, which is just a sword that's a drill.
Not solid.
It's a giant drill.
Yes.
He uses the drill.
Yes,
and he
does.
Fights all the villains at the same
spiral
time.
energy.
He fights them all for about 30 seconds, and then he hops on this galaxy glider, which is basically a surfboard with jets, and he surfs away.
Yeah.
It's awesome. It's so freaking cool.
The most extreme.
And he's got a really
show.
He's got a very
yes.
He's got a pretty dark backstory.
He went from there straight to the X Games,
right,
and just blew everyone's mind.
Basically,
my gosh.
But yeah, he has a pretty dark backstory. He has a connection to Astronema that he doesn't know about. Astronema turns out to be his sister that was kidnapped as a young girl.
Su hermana.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's very neat. And later, Corone is her real name, but she was kidnapped by this, evil guy, and she later on became Astronema, who's basically been taught that all these things that are good are evil, basically, and and it's very interesting. And then there's whenever everything is said and done, by the end of it, she kind of turns to the good side, and even in the season after, in Lost Galaxy, when the Pink Ranger passes away. She steps in and becomes the Pink Ranger for a while, which is very neat. They even make a reference to it in Super Megaforce, which I think it was fine. The reference was fine. It wasn't. It was probably one of the better parts of the show.
I mean, Super Megaforce in itself is just a reference
to everything.
Else.
Just bad reference. Anyway, but Space is solid. I liked it a lot. The characters are really neat. The Sixth Ranger, Zane, is very cool. Scott and I were big fans of him with his super Silverizer, which was the name of his weapon.
Yes, it was.
Laser that turned into a sword.
Yeah.
I don't know what a Silverizer is, but that apparently what it was.
Oh
and God. I really liked him. He was super cocky, and because up to this point, all the Rangers were like, "Oh man, this is cool," but they were really taking it seriously. And this guy was he had the chops to back everything up. But he was still super cocky about it. He was very much like Spider-Man in that sense. He was always bantering and stuff like that. He was popping in to save everybody when everything was going bad. It was very neat. And then he and Andros had a history, which was really neat. And Andros was also very prideful, and so he was always challenging the villains to one-on-one duels and stuff like that. And
Goku, let's go.
His pride was always getting the better of him, which is really neat. These struggles, there was neat stuff that happened in space. It was very, very cool, I thought.
I'll take your word for it.
Number one.
Final
season. Wrap it up here. RPM. Power Rangers RPM. It was the last season Disney did before Saban bought the show back.
Gotcha. And it's the best, because Disney's the greatest.
It's definitely the darkest of all the series.
Right? So I think you told me about this one.
Alternate future in Power Rangers where there's a virus that came out called Vengix that corrupted all the computers and turned them basically they became sentient. All the robots and computers and stuff like that in the world became sentient, and they basically just wiped out all of humanity, except for this one city. This one city that is being protected by this big force field and being protected by the Power Rangers themselves. The Power Rangers RPM, who are at this point so several seasons of the Power Rangers. There's different ways the Power Rangers get their powers. They're all attached to the morphing grid somehow, but it's different, varies. But in RPM, the suits were built by the scientist. And the scientist turns out to be the same girl who created the Vengix virus. And basically, so she made the Power Rangers as kind of a way to kind of atone for her sin, and she'd been trying to do everything she could to correct it, basically. And the whole show, the Rangers are kind of fighting this uphill battle, basically, because they've lost the battle.
Yeah, at this
point, the whole show,
definitely.
And it's very interesting.
You had one job,
and they have all of these interesting
save the world
stories where when there's always this threat that when a monster attacks, it's a big deal because they have just the one city left. Because in the original shows, all the shows leading up to this, the villains always have to defeat Angel Grove or whatever city the Power Rangers are in, and that's if they can defeat the city, they can defeat the whole world. But it's in RPM, the robots just took over everything else.
Yeah.
And the one city the Power Rangers were in, they just couldn't get that one yet.
Yeah, no.
And I was just wow, that's awful.
That's cool.
A right way to get around it. Yeah, definitely. The stakes were definitely higher. And then there was also really neat conflicts with some of the characters in that the characters were, most of them were nobodies. The Yellow Ranger, she used to be this rich kid who, when the apocalypse happened, basically, she was just stuck up nobody, and she didn't want to deal with anybody. But then I believe someone sacrificed their life to save her, basically, and she decided she was going to do that. She was going to turn her life around and help people. And so she became this like selfless person that we see now. The Blue Ranger was this like bus driver. The Red Ranger is the only one that was like a trained person. He's a military guy. He's a former Air Force. He fought in the battles, the original battles in the war, basically, with the robots before he was a Power Ranger. And his brother was actually lost in that battle, which was awful. And then the Black Ranger was a human that was kidnapped by the Rangers, or by the robots, and at a younger age, he and his sister, his twin sister, I think, maybe just made a regular sister, but I think they were twins, and the two of them were experimented on, and basically he's got robot parts in him, and when he first joins the Rangers and they discovered this about him, they realize that the parts have the ability, like, if they don't do something to fix it, the robots can find some way to contact those parts and basically control him to destroy the Rangers from within, basically. And so that's a big thing with them. And also they run into this other robot chick who turns out to be his sister that has also been experimented on, but she's evil as well, similar to In Space. But it's done a little bit differently in that, like, she's not in her own mindset. Like, she's literally been programmed to do what she does,
to be a bad guy.
And they have this struggle where they want to defeat her, but they can't kill her, and it's very neat.
Can't destroy her.
Can't destroy her. Yes, that's
gotcha.
Right. They can't destroy the robot.
I'm here.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Make sure it's kid friendly.
Kid friendly. We don't want to use kill. Kill's a strong word. It's too strong. But no, like, and the show is, as dark as it is not without its campiness for sure, and it's not without its humor, but it does some really neat stuff. Like, it had a lot of firsts in it. Like, it's the first season to ever have a Power Ranger go to jail. Like, Power Ranger, like, the Black Ranger straight up, like, commits a crime and goes to jail. The Green Ranger has debts with the mob. Like, like, there's some legitimate stuff that goes on in the show. And it was really neat because, at least from what I heard, I don't know how, you can't take this to the bank or anything, but, like, I had heard that as Disney was kind of separating itself from Power Rangers as it was getting to RPM, basically. And, like, every year they were like, we're going to cancel the show. They basically, when they bought the show from Saban, their intention with the show was to cancel it. But they were told, or they were convinced by Bandai,
removing all this competition.
Yeah, their plan was to buy Power Rangers and shut it down. But when they bought the show,
I love that.
Bandai, who was partnered with Power Rangers that was selling the toys, was like, we're making a lot of money from these toys. If you could just continue the show,
if you could just make,
we could
whatever
both
you
make
want,
money. Yeah,
please.
Yeah, and so
that's funny.
Power Rangers. So every season, so Disney got, as the shows progressed, Disney got more and more embarrassed of Power Rangers, and they were just separating themselves more and more from it. But Bandai kept convincing them, no, continue with this. And by the time they got to RPM, Disney was just like, well, we don't want any part of this. And Bandai was basically like, okay, well, we'll do this. We'll fund this, like, for this last season. It'll be our last thing. And so Disney had almost no touch, like, nothing to do with this show. And it came out really good.
Yeah.
It came out really solid because of that.
Yeah, that's cool. I love that Disney was trying to just smother this series, and I love the cojones, the cojones of Saban to come back to Disney and be like, yeah, just let me have that back. Here's a few $1 million.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Give me that back.
Yeah.
Because like this, you just think of like anyone else who's
he bought
acquired.
it back for like $15 million.
Yeah,
like,
you think of anyone going back to Disney at this point? Because I mean, like, most of the things that if Disney has acquired anything at this point, think of Marvel, Lucasfilms, it's become infinitely more successful than it was prior to Disney. And like you wouldn't think of George Lucas just going up to Disney and being like, hey, I just really think this will be better back in my hands. And I don't think any fan would think that either.
No.
But like, Saban was just like, you know what? You're great and all. But, I think I would just do this more again. You know, just give it back. Just here's a few million.
Yeah.
Let me do my show better than you.
Right.
And that's just so funny to me.
Yes.
I love that Power Rangers is the one that broke that. That state, like,
yeah.
Disney couldn't fix this. Or I guess, I don't know. I'm sure this one was fine.
Yeah.
This season was fine.
And a lot of the shows Disney did have a stronger hand in was fine too. But...
I think they worked. I haven't seen a whole lot of them, but I imagine they probably had a better budget.
Oh yeah, that's definitely seen. The special effects are a lot better, and part of
production value.
it was I mentioned before was that one of the first things Disney did when they bought the show from Saban was they moved everything to New Zealand.
Yeah,
where it was a lot cheaper to make. So it was already. It was already
capitalized
cheap.
on Saban's cheapness. They were like, you know how cheap you are? Watch us be cheap even better than you.
And it was really great because Saban learned from that.
He
and
just
because
kept it
he's still in New Zealand. Yeah, after he bought it from Disney, he just continued it.
That's a pretty good idea. Okay.
And yeah, so he
just walks on set one day and they're like, "Well, who are you, bro? I own this stuff. This is me. It's me, Saban. This is my thing.
Yeah.
Don't worry though, I ain't changing crap."
Andre from Black Nerd Comedy does this. I guess impression. It's not really an impression. He's not like, I don't know what Saban really sounds like, but he does this thing where like anytime he wants to describe Saban, he has this like deep voice thing where he's like, "I am Saban." Like basically, like he's just like God of the Power Rangers, basically telling them to do everything.
Oh man!
But yeah, it was very cool. But yeah, if anybody is ever interested in Power Rangers, even a little bit, like if you're gonna watch anything, I suggest watching RPM. RPM is really neat. It's not that long. I
suggest watching Mighty Morphin because that's the first one, which means it's the best.
David. Yeah, definitely, sure.
That's such a horrible opinion.
Right?
That's like saying the first Voltron is better than the current Voltron.
Yeah, no.
Which no one
objectively is wrong.
Yes, that's just nope.
Yeah.
Said no one ever.
But yeah, I'm a big fan of it. Y'all don't have to be, but I one of the things I think is really interesting about this, and the more I was reading about this and researching about this to prepare for this, was I thought about how people that like these things tend to not. People don't like it. Like when I tell people I like Power Rangers, they're like, "Oh, you like Power Rangers?" It's like even now, at that
it's like some. Gosh, I don't. Never mind. I just won't even do that joke. Continue.
Like it just. But yeah,
some brony dressed in like full rainbow like rave gear, and you're like, yeah I like Power Rangers. They're like, ew.
Right.
You like Power Rangers? Gross. We look at you and just like, this is the middle of the day.
Or like Sonic fans or. Yeah, like, you know, it's one of those things people just kind of, like, look down on.
I want to be clear, I love bronies. That's just the first thing that came to mind.
Yeah, no, I get that. Everybody has that fan base that they're like...
everybody has, yes,
as accepting as nerds generally tend to be, there's always those few, like, fringe
there's plenty
fan bases
where people are
like, not that.
Yeah,
not
definitely.
that
but I mean,
fan base.
everyone's got something, that little thing that they like. And
definitely.
That's fine.
And...
just enjoy.
When I was younger, I feel like I was more embarrassed of it. But as I got older, I was like, look, I'm not going to...
There are so many worse things you could be into.
I'm not going to not like something because people think it's dumb.
Yeah, that is a very bad reason to like or dislike anything. Is like, all these other people don't think I should do this, so I'm just not going to do this.
Honestly, that has a lot to do with like me getting into and then subsequently leaving watching Gotham. I got into it because I was like, well, I like Batman and I should like this, and all my friends like Gotham and I should check it out. But the more I watched an episode and got upset, the more I was like, why do I watch this show that I don't like? And so I stopped watching it, and I haven't looked back. I'm sure it's fine. People say it's good.
Well done, David.
But you guys can like it, and I'll continue to not like it.
Well said. I myself have seen one episode, and yep.
Just the one.
Just the one.
It's okay.
Hasn't changed.
It's probably fine.
It's okay. There are better things to watch.
Yes. Yeah, like Power Rangers.
Just
or don't.
like it.
I don't really care. I don't work for Saban.
David.
Unless Saban sponsors us, I'll sell some Power Ranger toys like a mofo.
Bro. I'll watch all them Power Rangers for a sponsor.
For a sponsor. Yep. But yeah, that's my bit here today, guys.
Excellent. It's good. Go watch it. Support it.
Or
watch whatever thing you like.
Check out
Tell
Ninja
us about
Steel.
it.
Maybe it's good. I don't
It's
know.
good.
Probably
I don't know.
not.
Email in.
Hit or miss.
Let us know what you think about Voltron.
Yep.
Let us know what you think about Castlevania. What do you think about Power Rangers? What are your top 5 Power Ranger series?
Yeah.
Let us know.
We got a Twitter.
We do have a Twitter. You can add us at TNYKPod. We
have a
also
Facebook
have
now.
we have a Facebook page. Those nerds you know on Facebook.
Yep.
Look us up.
We have
Gmail.
Yep.
Those nerds you know pod at gmail.com.
Yep. Check it out.
We have a YouTube channel now.
We have a
you were
YouTube
about to
channel
say.
now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're
I
all
have
over
no
the
idea
place
if you'll
now,
be able to
guys.
find us, but you should be able to find our YouTube through our Facebook.
Oh, yeah, through our Facebook and stuff. Yeah,
yeah.
until we start getting
Just searching us probably won't.
until
do
we start
anything
getting
for
some
you.
traction.
I don't
Search
know.
engine's gonna be a little tough right now.
Yeah,
But yeah, we're getting it, guys. We're getting up there.
getting there.
Check us out.
Yep.
Tell us what you think.
Let us know if there's anything you want us to talk about.
Love some feedback. Hate us. Tell us how much you hate us. I want to hear that.
Tell us how much you hate David.
Oh yeah! Give me that hate. It feeds me.
Let's go. All right, that's it.
Thank you, guys.
I'm Ethan LeBlanc.
I'm David McQueen.
We are those nerds you know. Thank you for
Bye.
everything. Bye.